and sleek modern designs. Amini's huge outdoor sale, 105th and Metcalf, or online at aminis.com.
Red Monday is brought to you by the University of Kansas Health System, the official healthcare provider of the Kansas City Chiefs. Learn more at kansashealthsystem.com/Chiefs. That's kansashealthsystem.com/Chiefs.
Hey Kansas City, Stephen St. John here. Let me tell you about my incredible experience with Border Magic. They just installed stunning custom concrete landscape edging around our entire home. Our landscaping now looks like a work of art. This concrete landscaping edging will improve your curb appeal and enhance your property value. I would recommend Border Magic to anyone. Check out images of their work at southkc.bordermagic.com. Border Magic, a perfect cost-effective way to create a gorgeous first impression of your home. Call Border Magic today.
Rich Eisen here from Monday Night Football on Westwood One. We get the new season of NFL Monday Night games started with a marquee AFC East matchup when Aaron Rodgers leads the New York Jets against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Hall of Fame quarterback Kurt Warner and Kevin Harlan will call the action, and I'll handle the...
Got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, a Monday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels, heading up until 2 o'clock. The next 4 hours, we've got you. A lot of stuff to get into and talk about today. A lot of NFL on the docket, some college football we will get into and discuss as well. Here's how the show lines up. We will talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. We'll start our weekly conversations with our ESPN NFL insider, Field Yates, and then we will hear from Andy Reid, the first ever Monday, or first of the season. First ever. Andy Reid is talking for the first time ever.
First ever week 1 Monday 0-1 start with Patrick Mahomes press conference is what you meant to say?
That's exactly right. The first time ever Andy Reid will have a press conference in week number 2 with Patrick Mahomes talking about an 0-1 team getting ready for a trip to the Jags to take on that team. And Jacksonville, 1-0, the Jags are after they went to Indianapolis and won. We'll talk a lot about the NFL and things like that, but we'll hear from Andy Reid coming up about 12:30 or so, and then Mick Schaefer will join us at 1 o'clock, KSHB 41 Sports Director. We got Learn Funniest Best before the show is over as well, so all of that we will get into and talk about today. 913-912-4810 is the text line, 913-912-4810. Google Fiber was working overtime this weekend because I had the 3 TVs working. My son had his iPad on because he discovered ESPN Plus.
Oh, wow.
Over the weekend. And he just could not believe that he could just scroll and see all these games. He was like just randomly picking a game. He's like, "Hey, Dad, look at this team." It was like Duquesne. Duquesne played somebody that was a Power 5 opponent. I don't even remember. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it's Duquesne." And then he was, just scrolling through like, "Oh, hey, let's check out College of Charleston." I'm like, "Okay, man, I didn't even know they had a football team." But he was doing that. I had my iPad on different things. I had the TVs on, and that was Saturday. And then yesterday, my son has his iPad, and he's just watching Red Zone channel, which I've got Red Zone on my iPad, and I've got CBS on the TV because, Fox does not.
Is it working still for you?
Work on DirecTV,
Weird.
which I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to have DirecTV for about a few more days, starting the YouTube TV free trial.
Ooh, really? It's finally happening.
Starting the free trial there. So
the scissors inch ever closer to the cord.
I know. Well, I don't need to watch Royals anymore this year, so
Thanks for all the losses.
And I've already got Red Zone with NFL Plus that I've had NFL Plus for a while. Mm-hmm. So he's got my password, so he's watching the Red Zone, and I'm watching the Red Zone on my iPad, and I've got the TV on, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, check out this game." I'm like, "I'm watching the same thing, man."
Look at us, just a couple of dudes watching Red Zone on different iPads.
Hanging out. He had a birthday party he had to go to yesterday. He's like, "Oh, I got to go to this birthday party." I'm like, "Dude, you've been looking forward to the birthday party all week that you're going to."
But Dad, I just discovered Red Zone.
This is Red Zone, Dad, okay? Do you understand? This is cocaine, all right? I don't need sugar anymore, Dad, all right? I've got Red Zone.
35 weekends a year, I'm going to need something else to bring me up. But these 17?
Dad,
18.
I've been reading about the witching hour for 7 years of my life, and I didn't know what that was about. I thought it was a Halloween term because people would say it around the fall and around Halloween. Now you're telling me I'm going to be gone in the witching hour? This can't happen.
I will never miss another witching hour long as I shall live, Father.
I said, "Son, and next week will be the same thing. Only the Chiefs will be playing at noon." So Google Fiber was working overtime this weekend, and not a glitch. It was all good. It's perfect.
And people were nervous about Red Zone making that YouTube TV switch,
right.
And it was going to put some stressors on some internet connections and all of that. Very similar story for the Google Fiber connection in my house this weekend. And oh, baby, I missed Red Zone channel so much.
Let me tell you, if I had a different internet provider, I would not be thinking about cutting the cord.
Yeah.
There is zero chance I would be doing that. But with Google Fiber, I'm perfectly fine with doing those things. I just have to make sure that my device that I'm getting YouTube TV through, so like whether that's a Roku or a Fire Stick, is good enough to handle. The bandwidth is going to be there for the internet, but if the road is clogged with traffic, I can have 7 lanes all I want, but if those 7 lanes are in Kansas City, awesome. If those 7 lanes are in LA, I'm still slowed down to a halt. So I got to make sure that's taken care of as well. But I'm not worried about the provider of the internet and high speed there.
You got the pipes for it.
That's exactly right. The pipes. 913-912-4810. Text says YouTube TV, one of the best forms of live TV available today. You'll never go back. I'm hoping that's the case because it's a nice chunk of change that I'll save with all of the channels and what I'm paying for DirecTV. Give me every channel you have. Yes, I'll watch it in Spanish too. You don't even speak Spanish. I don't care. I just want the opportunity to watch it in Spanish. How do I know that my son and I aren't going to learn Spanish together?
Hey, look, as long as you also get regular Fox, I mean, you'll take all the channels you can get. Certainly regular Fox will be there.
Oh, I don't get that? Oh.
Oh, well,
Okay.
I guess I don't need Fox Espanol.
Which is weird because I don't want to say this in case the NFL is listening.
Mm-hmm.
They typically listen into every single show across the country.
I think they do.
But if I go to my Fox Sports app, I can't watch Fox, right? If I go to my DirecTV app, I can't watch Fox, obviously. But NFL Plus allows me to watch the local games that are on TV, which allowed me to watch Fox on NFL Plus.
Interesting.
So I could watch, I had Channel 5, I had CBS up there on the TV, and I had my computer was Red Zone, and then the game that was on Fox, which wasn't a great one because it was Bears and Packers for the early one.
There anyway.
Didn't really miss
Kind of
anything
ugly
with that one. So 913-912-4810, that's how the show lines up. We got Learn Funniest Best before the show is over as well. Let's get into week one. It is not over yet, but there are certainly some observations to take away from week one. We'll see what happens with Bills and Jets tonight, if that's going to be a fun game, if that's going to be a sloppy game, if it's, I don't even know, I haven't even checked the weather. Is there another monsoon coming through for New York? Is it still going to continue to rain? I wish I was smart enough to look at the weather and bet the under on everything.
That's usually just that easy.
7 of the 8 games in the early window went under.
Did they really?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
7 of the 8 games went under, and I'm trying to think which is the only game that went over. Doesn't matter. 7 of the 8 games went under in the early period. It was Jags Colts. Ended up being that was 45, and it ended up being 52.
It went over because of one of the more normal touchdowns you'll ever see.
Yeah,
just a totally normal touchdown that where 3 different people possessed the football.
Quick aside, college and NFL. This is something I was going to bring up at some point.
I love it.
It's been one of the frustrations that I've had in watching football and watching college or NFL.
Let's solve it.
I don't understand how you get to that level of playing, and so often there will be a ball that's just rolling around, and people will just let it, like a pass down like a swing pass to a running back that's incomplete, and the ball just bouncing around and nobody goes and gets it. I'm like, how many times have we seen that be called a live ball? Or the running back just drops it and then doesn't go and get it, and the defense picks it up and runs. It's like, how are you not coached on, if it's a swing pass, that might be a lateral. Go pick it up. And just because the ball goes forward when a quarterback is hit does not mean that it is a forward pass. We've seen that happen plenty of times. And there's no whistle. And so often guys are just walking around, the ball's laying down. I'm like, how are we at this point in so many highlights and so many plays like that in college and the NFL that there isn't an immediate everybody running to pick up the football just in case? You never know.
It doesn't seem like that difficult of a thing to do.
No.
We're not saying you have to go dive with your entire weight of your body on the football, maybe knock the wind out of it. No. Just pick it up.
Yeah.
Pick it up and step out of bounds. Pick it up and take a knee. Pick it up and hold it. Just 2 hands. Hands it to a referee. I'm giving myself up to you, referee. Here's the football, referee. Any number of things that would at least indicate that you were the team that had possessed the football. I'm with you. Doesn't seem that difficult.
And it's interesting, that particular play, DeForest Buckner with the sack, the fumble, the then recovered fumble, I guess.
Recovery, technically.
Then touchdown.
Punch out again.
Yeah, punch out by somebody else, picked up by him, but actually picked up by a Jags player, and then standing there, still no whistle. Refs aren't doing anything. They're just watching the play. Guys are just, sort of hugging, tapping each other on the helmet. Somebody comes in and punches it out.
Especially now that they rightly, I think, let the play out, because
even better point.
You can't stop it and then go back and say, "Oh, that should have been touchdown for the Colts." But you can let it play out and then ultimately go back, review it, and say, "Hey, that shouldn't have happened. We let it go. Whatever, fine. Nobody got hurt." But when we're letting it play like that, folks, I would just go ahead and make sure you have the football until the last possible moment.
Absolutely. But yes, that was one of the more normal plays that you'll see in the NFL with
Super normal
defensive touchdown. We'll get into Chiefs and Jags and we'll start breaking that down. But a little preview of that throughout the week.
Yeah.
That play was made by DeForest Buckner, the dominant defensive tackle for the Colts. It's also not a good Colts defense. It's an okay defensive line. It's an awful secondary, and it is a rough Jags offensive line. that also will not have Cam Robinson on Sunday. So this, to me, as a preview of the preview that we'll be talking about with the Jags, this matchup for the Chiefs against the Jags and defensive line, no Chris Jones, will be a really interesting indication of how good they can be against a subpar offensive line, when a subpar offensive line that's going to be better at passing the football and maybe more dynamic offensively versus a top 5 offensive line in the Lions that aren't as dynamic because the wide receivers aren't really as dynamic and they don't have Hawkinson anymore. And it's rookie Laporta, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is a really awesome slot possession receiver, but not that, he's going to, catch 15 balls for 150 yards or 215 like Tyreek Hill or Calvin Ridley or something like that. And the running game for the Lions was supposed to be better. So certainly that's good news. And so that will be one of the things that I'll be focusing on Sunday is what this defensive line looks like against an inferior offensive line. How much pressure do they put on Trevor Lawrence? Because he was under pressure a lot of that game. And DeForest Buckner was a big reason. And that's a guy right up the middle, defensive tackle, which if Chris Jones was on the team, you'd be talking about a huge advantage for the Chiefs against the Jags' inferior interior and tackles. And the Chiefs 1-0 because he was on the team and the Chiefs 1-0 going to Jacksonville. So it would be a different conversation. But this will be an interesting test for the Chiefs against a Jags offensive line that just is not really all that good.
And the entirety of those offenses, like you kind of touched on there, they are so fundamentally different because you have a quarterback in Jared Goff who it's like, hey, the best version of him, he can do some good things for you. But then you see the sparks from Trevor Lawrence. You see what's great about Amon-Ra St. Brown and what he can do as a really unique talent at that position, specifically as a slot receiver. And then you see Calvin Ridley being the guy galloping down the sidelines and balls just teleporting to Ridley and Zay Jones. And you get some of that burst from Travis Etienne. And they can all of a sudden make this offense altogether look way more talented. But I think you are dead on to note the offensive line isn't the offensive line the Chiefs went up against last week. So it is two very unique units, I think, truly across all of the NFL offensively that the Chiefs are going to get tested against. And I don't know if I feel better or worse about the Lions or the Jags offense as opposed to the Lions. We'll have some time to unpack it. But my immediate thought is, well, if you're bringing more pressure, you are going to have a chance, if you're Trevor Lawrence, to find one of those weapons in some single coverage somewhere. And can you pick on one of these? Can you find Joshua Williams against Calvin Ridley and all of a sudden find that being a pro Jags matchup? And if so, it could be kind of spooky.
I had a lot of observations from week 1 in all these different games.
There's some great stuff, man.
It's a little surprise, and maybe it was matchup driven, but all the talk about how dominant the AFC is, and maybe we'll see as the year progresses, but NFC was 4-0 against the AFC.
It's weird.
This weekend. And you might say, well, yeah, it was San Francisco against Pittsburgh. It was Philadelphia against New England. New Orleans and Tennessee, and that was in New Orleans. Okay, well, Chiefs and Lions, that was in Kansas City and defending Super Bowl champions. But if the AFC is as big of a gauntlet as we talk about, well, then, maybe don't go 0-4. Tennessee is supposed to be one of the teams that's like, okay, that's how deep this conference is because even Tennessee, that may not be viewed as a Super Bowl contender, is still going to be a tough team, and it's always a tough team for the Chiefs. But then, Ryan Tannehill is Ryan Tannehill, and New Orleans goes and wins that game. Detroit wins. San Francisco just completely obliterates any of the optimism and positive thoughts around Pittsburgh heading into the season from the preseason about Pickett, Pickens, healthy Najee Harris, a defense of the Steelers, which TJ Watt was still really freaking good in that game. And then Philadelphia, New England was just odd. It was just a weird game, that 16-0 with the rain, and Philadelphia just looked slow. Like that was, and Sirianni said after the game that he's going to go back and rethink his preseason plans, that he thinks he'll play his players in preseason moving forward, because it just didn't look like his team out there and felt like they were a tick slow because they were still getting in a groove together. But they looked really slow. And New England's got a good defense, but that did not look like the explosive offense that we saw with the Eagles for most of the season last year. Jalen Hurts looked slow. He looked indecisive. The offensive line didn't look like it was all that great against New England. So I don't think that's going to be something where you go, okay, Philadelphia is a bunch of frauds. It's just that, we saw some slower starts to some teams' offenses. And then we saw some explosive offenses with the Dolphins and the Chargers. And then whatever the hell the Bengals did.
Yeah. Which I'm looking at
There's
the
a
show
lot of
sheet.
takeaways from that.
We're going to talk about that game for 4 hours straight, right?
I would love to, actually. I would really like to talk about that game for 4 hours straight. But a lot of quiet people on Twitter yesterday that weren't quiet on Thursday and Friday.
I figured this would be a pretty predominant take amongst Chiefs fans, but I really think it's totally fair to say, you know what? Hurts a little less after watching the Bengals offense also be just a bunch of hot dookie fire for about 60 minutes out there. It doesn't hurt quite. The Chiefs. Kent Swanson had the tweet of the day on this topic.
I didn't see this.
He said, hey, in Cincinnati's defense, they didn't have Travis Kelce either.
That's brilliant.
It's brilliant. And it has to make you feel a little bit better. Like I tweeted yesterday, it was kind of nice to see that the Chiefs weren't the only team that had week 4 of the preseason energy. And then you had Dolphins-Chargers, which felt like a wild card game in September. It was a weird day of football, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything.
Well, it was a wild card game because the Chargers ended up losing. So
I tweeted that before the final result was done.
The Dolphins went on the road to win in front of a home crowd.
Yep, that's exactly right. I'm telling you, everything about that felt like a wild card game to me.
When Herbert got sacked to end the game, the crowd erupting. Dolphins fans running off, or Dolphins players running off the field with their arms pumping the crowd up, telling the crowd to get louder. They play across the country.
The highlight here is Tua fist pumping to the crowd on the way out.
They're in Miami. This is L.A. It's amazing. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and I want to get into some of the other specifics of takeaways as we look at the AFC. View changed from the Chiefs after, watching some games. Again, there's reactions and overreactions and observations and things like that from the weekend. And also one of the things I want to talk about is a conversation that we had with Matt Derrick on Friday, and we didn't get to expand on it a lot, and I want to expand on it. And it was Thursday night truly life without Kelce? Is Thursday night something that we should prepare for, that whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now, eventually the Chiefs offense will look like that just because Kelce isn't out there? I do want to talk about that and get into a more of a bigger conversation around the receivers and Patrick Mahomes in this offense with and without Travis Kelce. But we'll take a timeout. We'll come back on the other side. I do want to get into some observations, how it specifically impacts the Chiefs, if views were changed, and maybe have a little fun with teams that were having fun at the Chiefs' expense. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and...
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. We will talk with Field Yates coming up at noon. ESPN NFL Insider coming up at noon. Field Yates, Andy Reid around 12:30 or so. Mick Schaefer, 1 o'clock. Learned funniest best. All coming up. Tex says it's all part of the script. Just wait until week 7. Wow. Tex says I feel better about the Chiefs after watching Cincinnati get destroyed. I mean, this is one of those to where in college football we always wonder, like, is this more about this team or is it about that team? Who's this really about? It was Colorado and TCU, the week 1. It was like, okay, is that more about TCU or is that about Colorado? Well, we're learning a lot more about Colorado now, 2 weeks into this. And so one of the things as watching that Bengals-Browns game is, are the Browns for real? Because it was a gross game weather-wise, and the ball was slick. Deshaun Watson had some really good throws. He struggled at times in the first half, but using his legs, which is a dynamic that not a lot of other teams have. I mean, Justin Fields only has his legs in that game, and Deshaun Watson doing some different things there, and Joe Burrow looking like he was trying to throw the ball with only one leg. He looked like he was injured, right? Did you get the same impression? That has to be the
thing you think about, and it depends on, for me also, because I was mainlining red zone. I didn't see as many of the in routine failing plays. That's the one drawback of red zone. It's just cocaine, and then it's like, hey, does Joe Burrow look okay? Back to the next game, touchdown Washington. But that was immediately
touchdown Washington. That was funny.
Yeah, it was the funniest thing I can think of. I think of other logos on my screen for some reason. But that has to be the concern there. I think the Browns' defense is absolutely for real. But what's the path back going to be like for Joe Burrow? I wouldn't blame any Bengals fans or the Bengals themselves for saying, yeah, our quarterback missed all of training camp, and we're still not completely sure where his health is right now.
Yeah, it looked like he was trying to throw with just one leg. It didn't look like he was pushing off the back leg. But again, that's watching from afar, and who knows if he felt fine. But the question will be moving forward: is this Cleveland team for real? Because they've got a running game, and they've got Amari Cooper. They've Elijah Moore looked pretty good too in that game, and then defensively they've got a really good front, and so they've got a pretty darn good defense. Do the Cleveland Browns? The Bengals, though, is obviously the takeaway and the view from this. Joe Burrow was 14 of 31, 82 yards on 31 pass attempts,
82 yards,
a 52 quarterback rating. T. Higgins had 8 targets and no receptions. He was targeted 8 times and no catches. And Kadarius Toney's like, damn. Wish I'd have been targeted 8 times. Even I caught the ball once. Edward Zelaire's like, I mean, at least I picked up yards. Y'all are complaining about T. Higgins. I mean, that guy didn't even get it.
Had positive yardage.
Are you kidding me? He had 2 drops. Ball went right through his hands twice. I mean, ridiculous. But you know what I was watching for, right? What a lot of Chiefs fans were watching in that game against the Bengals.
Oh, yeah.
The left tackle.
Yeah, the protection for Joe Burrow was not ideal.
The left tackle.
He wasn't their biggest problem.
He wasn't their biggest problem, but I mean, I think there's a couple of ways of viewing this.
I think there are.
Matt Verderame tweeted out that, Orlando Brown is getting worked by Myles Garrett. And he was when they left him one-on-one. The really, really fascinating thing to me, after spending the summer talking about what the Chiefs would look like with their new tackles, and Orlando Brown at left tackle, and the left tackle from the last couple of years, Alabama first-round pick that's now moved to right tackle, Jonah Williams.
For the Bengals. I thought, okay, yep,
sorry.
I wasn't there for you. Dylan was.
No, sorry, Jonah Williams. So, like, their new tackles versus the Chiefs' new tackles, and sort of the same guard-to-guard, for the most part, for both teams. That we watched Donovan Smith, we watched Jawan Taylor. And people had fun at Jawan Taylor's expense on Thursday night. A lot of people had fun with that. And understandably, had fun with that.
Continue talking about it through the weekend.
Yeah. Even, who was it that... Joel Klatt said that if his slot receiver he'd be for the Chiefs or something like that.
Really funny.
Even Joel Klatt dropped that. But we talked about how he would look, and it was like, I think Orlando Brown's going to look better for the Bengals because they have a quicker passing game, which they do. It's 3 steps, couple steps, and then boom, get rid of the football. So Orlando Brown probably better with that system. But what really stood out to me, and one of the things that we discussed was, okay, so the Bengals played the Chiefs a number of times. So they know how to attack him. And they had different guys going at Orlando Brown in different ways. So this is not something to where they're going to bring him in and go, oh, wait, we didn't know he was this type of tackle. Mm-hmm. They know exactly the guy they were getting. And if anybody watched early on and throughout most of that game, Orlando Brown had a tight end. The running back almost always went to the left and was chipping. And that's not just saying, well, Myles Garrett is over there. No. Myles Garrett moved to the left side of the defense a lot. Yep. Was going up against Jonah Williams a lot. And you know why? Because they kept chipping with the tight end and the running back for Orlando Brown. And that really stood out to me because we saw that so often, and we were told that, well, it's going to be an upgrade in Cincinnati, and they're not going to have to do that. They're not going to have to worry about those things because it's a quicker passing game and all of that stuff, and they'll have guys get out in the routes a little quicker. But what it also did was because they were tight end and running back focus on the left tackle, is when anybody broke through, there was no protection for Joe Burrow. Any blitz that was not picked up in the middle, no protection for Joe Burrow because they were helping Orlando Brown. And when they didn't, the third play of the game, Myles Garrett just picked up Orlando Brown and tossed him into Joe Burrow. He just fell straight backwards, falling into Joe Burrow. It ended up being a 12-yard completion to Jamar Chase. It was a great throw. He threw it that quickly because Myles Garrett walked him back. It's also Myles Garrett, one of the best defensive end edge rushers. So that is not a Orlando Brown sucks because Myles Garrett won that rep. All right, Myles Garrett won that rep. What stood out was how much, Josh, they were helping him on the left side, which was part of what they weren't going to have to do because their offense was different than what the Chiefs' offense was, that they didn't have to worry about those things that the Chiefs did with Jerick McKinnon and Kelsey and Gray chipping on the left side of the offense.
And that's when it all ends up being about value. And it's one of the reasons that, like, our salary cap dorkiness occasionally bubbles through. And I maybe you're going, okay, but he was paid this much in the offseason. Why does it matter if he's performing this way in the regular season? The Orlando Brown story is the exact reason those conversations matter. Because giving a bunch of chip help to Andrew Wiley if he has to deal with Myles Garrett one-on-one for a good portion of the game, yes. All right, we need to help him out a little bit.
Understandable.
Yes, because you've put your resources in other positions. And ultimately, the deal the Bengals gave to Orlando Brown, I still don't think is going to end up being a disaster. His number came down from what he was originally demanding. The original Orlando Brown quote-unquote market would have been more of a disaster. But this deal will ultimately, I think, not look great, but it won't sink the franchise single-handedly, even as they have to figure out what life will look like for them without T. Higgins. Although, I saw it yesterday. Yeah. He was out there. He got those 8 targets. That was just all. But ultimately, when you think you have a bookend set of tackles, and not that the Bengals believe in a bookend, I suppose, but when you think you have at least one of your bookend tackles, and suddenly he's the one that you have to help over the course of the game, it's going to change what you can do as an offense. It changes the numbers. It changes the math, and it takes away a pawn for another way you can put some stress on the spacing of a defense. And the way that continually compounds is, to me, one of the most fun and interesting parts about football, but also something that you have to be able to pause a game to appreciate or go back to after the fact, because you start realizing, okay, wait a second. Like you just mentioned, if you've got running back chip help to your left tackle, well, now your right tackle's alone on an island. Even if it's not Myles Garrett over there, it's going to be a problem. Now you have no extra help for Joe Burrow in the pocket, and he's now down a receiving option. How much are you going to be able to spread it out and sling it if you have all of these issues already? Plus, if your quarterback is already gimpy still coming off that injury from training camp, how would you expect him to look like his best self? I mean, the way the dominoes can knock everybody down when there's one weak link in a football team is really fascinating. And I think the Bengals are going to have to continue to tinker with how they live life with Orlando Brown Jr.
Yep, absolutely. And the Chiefs had to do that. And it's just a matter of your resources and how you go about attacking the defense and what you feel like you need to do to be able to protect. And again, the Browns have a really good defense and a really good front.
Game one. Sheesh.
Exactly. And so that might be something to where the Browns are game wreckers. That Browns front is just so good that week in and week out, you're like, all right, maybe it wasn't a whole lot about the Bengals offensive line. It's week one. There are reactions and overreactions and concerns and things like that, and things we look back on and go, maybe that really wasn't what was taking place. But it really stood out in Orlando Brown, getting as much help as he needed in that particular game. What also stood out to me, and I know this might be a learn funniest best for you, so I apologize, Josh.
That's okay. I'm happy to talk about it twice.
I do want to play this clip because, one, it's funny, and two, it's Jamar Chase losing. And if you did not hear, Jamar Chase earlier this week called the Browns elves because of their mascot.
Brownie the Elf.
An
all-time great mascot.
Said that they were elves. After the game, here's Jamar Chase talking about losing to elves.
It's frustrating because I called their ass. We just lost to some elves, so I'm pissed on my part. I'm pissed on that. And like I said, man, we got missed opportunities. We didn't capitalize on that shit, and we lost. So that's how we lost.
With that said, you went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, go to the AFC Championship last year. You didn't beat Cleveland up here both years. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? It's one game.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, holding it on me. I'm holding it on me. I'm not doing all that. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to play my part and do what I can do for the team. So I'm pissed at other stuff.
So there you go. There's Jamar Chase. Called him some elves and then lost to the elves. And so he's pissed because they lost to elves in that game. Burrow's now 1-5 versus the Browns. If anybody is scoring at home, hang the banner. The Bengals are now
5 against the Browns. He sure is.
The Bengals are now 0-2 in their last 2 games where they were talking bleep the week leading into that game. They've lost their last 2 games when they were running their mouths the whole week, getting ready to play an opponent.
Did they call them the Cleveland Browns or anything?
They did not. That would not be smart for them to call them the Burrow-ounds.
It really wouldn't.
Browns.
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, probably. Just thought that was interesting. Back-to-back games, whole week leading up to the game, talking smack, talking about the other team, being loud, puffing the chest, and walking out, tails between legs. Just interesting.
Sure is.
Talking for a long time. Now back-to-back L's.
Back-to-back elves.
Eventually the Chiefs will return to Arrowhead, not Burrowhead. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels. Text says, I disagree. A missed block by Orlando Brown could absolutely derail the season. That's true. I mean, yeah, I said one missed block, those things. But yeah, that is that's absolutely right. 913-912-4810. This text says, did the national sports media talk about how Jawan Taylor lined up in Jacksonville? Maybe I just missed it since I rarely watched the Jags. Here's the thing. It is fascinating to me that it became a national joke. And maybe it's just that's the power of the NFL and Thursday night and the Chiefs being the new Patriots, because when it happens against the Chiefs, when he played for the Jags last year in the divisional round, and I tweeted out video of Jawan Taylor doing the same thing, lining up the same way, his back right leg moving, and sort of getting set, sort of like a pitcher before they come set. So, Josh Stallmont, flinches that left leg like 5 or 6 times before he eventually comes set and then pitches. Like we see pitchers all the time do that. And Jawan Taylor does that with his right leg, and where he's lined up as a slot receiver, as the joke is, and then getting what looks like an early start. So I tweeted that out, that, hey, he was doing this in Jacksonville against the Chiefs. Nobody cared, whether that was because it was Mahomes' ankle game that people were paying more attention to, or it was against the Chiefs and nobody cared, versus for the Chiefs, now all of a sudden the officials are doing things because they want the Chiefs to win. So I find it fascinating, that whole conversation there. But if you remember back, Joey Bosa, the Chargers and Jags wild card game, when the Jags made their comeback and Joey Bosa throws his helmet and is screaming at the official and gets 2 unsportsmanlike penalties, remember what that stemmed from. He was complaining the entire day to the officials about Jawan Taylor, what he felt was false starting every time. And for some reason, that game, which was a standalone game, there weren't 50 games on at the same time. Those playoff games are standalone games. For some reason, that, and then the next week, with Jawan Taylor doing the same thing for the Jags, standalone game, did not result in the national fun, let's make fun of Jawan Taylor. That was about Joey Bosa. People were telling Joey Bosa to sack up.
I saw a Lions fan tweet this weekend that they had a great experience in Kansas City. Chiefs fans were great. Let Lions fans do their thing and all of that, which I was encouraged by because it's hard becoming Patriots fans, which is where the Chiefs are at. I mentioned that to say this. Chiefs fans are going to have to get used to the fact that your team gets judged differently now. Yeah. There are more eyes on your left tackle, your right tackle, your offensive line because they're in front of Patrick Mahomes. So I think that texter's onto something. We talked about it at the time. You talked about that interaction between those two several times since it happened. But it's a national story when it happens around the Chiefs, which is honestly a cool thing, but a very weird, uncommon one that we're still getting used to around here.
Absolutely. But yeah, that whole Joey Bosa thing was about Jawan Taylor, what he felt was false starting. And somehow Thursday night was the first time anybody had ever seen it.
Another summer ending, and maybe you notice this summer that your energy is lower and your workouts not so productive.
The Zone is brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Chiefs take on the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up on Sunday as it is another out-of-division game for the Chiefs. The division for the Chiefs led by the Raiders right now. The Las Vegas Raiders, first place in the division, and the other three teams in the division all lost at home. Broncos lost at home, Chargers lost on the road at home, and the Chiefs lost at home. So the Raiders not only leading the division, but they have a road win in division. They've got a nice little lead there. Nice little lead. Chiefs are tied for last in the NFL. So it's a rough start so far for them, but they will head to Jacksonville. That is 1-0 right now.
The Raiders alone in first place is not something I thought was going to be a threat of happening this year.
That is also true. I thought the Broncos were going to win that game. They had opportunities, and I would love to know what's going on in Denver and the conversation around what happened in first half to second half, because Russell Wilson looked almost vintage Russell Wilson in the first half and then looked Nathaniel Hackett Russell Wilson in the second half.
Did you see the picture?
Did it strike midnight?
Yes, he turned into a pumpkin.
His carriage was a pumpkin all of a sudden?
He turned into a pumpkin. He's been a pumpkin for a little bit now. It's okay. They tried to make a little pie out of it, and maybe it worked for a half. I don't know. I'm not too worried about it. But the picture of him scrambling and getting back to the line of scrimmage on what I think may have been 3rd and 10, and then stretching the football out just across the line of scrimmage on the first down marker. Just the line of scrimmage. I know we pick on Russell Wilson. I know. I know we don't do it to everybody. I'm sure I've seen Mahomes stretch the ball 4 yards short of the first down marker. Mm-hmm. But actually, it was 1st and 10, and Russ scrambles and just scrambling out of bounds here.
That is true.
It's just, hey, you want to get this 1 extra yard here?
Well, it's first. At least it's not 3rd and like 10,
no,
and he does that.
10 is better.
It's 1st and 10, so he does pick up an extra like half yard or whatever.
He's just funny still. The Broncos and Raiders are both funny to me at this point, which maybe is a unfair spot to be in as we talk about the Chiefs being tied for last.
Boy, this text is great. Oh my goodness. I'm just going to rephrase here, but the text points out how ironic it'll be if Jacksonville complains about Juwan Taylor false starting on Sunday, since that's what he did for 4 years in Jacksonville.
I think they're just going to know it's coming, so they're going to be in the refs' ears. Hey, we know this guy's a little dirty tricks.
That is amazing.
I was about to second Josh's saying they're going to go, Mr. Official, we know that number 74 gets an early start.
Well,
we self-reported for years, and you guys never.
Yeah, there were pictures going around the internet of different offensive linemen that were lined up, what looked like illegal, lined up like Juwan Taylor, that weren't being called or talked about. And Josh in the break said, when's the last illegal formation for a tackle lining up off the line of scrimmage? And I said, this Sunday in Jacksonville. That's what it'll be. It'll be this Sunday. It'll be this Sunday in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. On Friday, we had a conversation with Matt Derrick, and he said, his concern would be that's life without Travis Kelce. Mm-hmm. And the conversation was, it was more philosophical of, he was talking about just draft tight ends until you find somebody that you feel like can replace Travis Kelce. I think 1 week without Travis Kelce and Noah Gray doesn't mean that Noah Gray can't be somebody that can help out on offense, because the All-22 showed there were a number of plays where Noah Gray was open and Mahomes just looked elsewhere. Maybe that relationship is different. If Travis Kelce doesn't play this weekend, maybe Noah Gray ends up with 9 receptions for, 105 yards. You're like, okay, there you go. There's that tight end and Andy Reid's offense, making a difference and getting open and using them in certain ways and between the hash. That's where they're working the middle of the field. But the life without Travis Kelce, my question would be, is this what it looks like, life without Kelce? Or is this just simply life with an injured Kelce? And I think there's a difference to that. And the difference being, and if Matt and I had another hour, I think we would go through and just talk about the nuances of this. The difference being, I don't believe for a second the wide receiver and tight end group will look like this if Kelce is not on the team. I don't think they'll go into a season, Brett Veach with this offense and Patrick Mahomes, with Travis Kelce commentating the game coming up on that Sunday or whatever, or filming his latest movie in Europe instead of lining up for the Chiefs, that it will be a hodgepodge of receivers and Noah Gray and Blake Bell and Jody Fortson. Life without Kelsey, to me, is a Justin Jefferson, is a high-level, is not trading Tyreek Hill. Life without Travis Kelsey. Part of trading Tyreek Hill was that you had Patrick Mahomes, but you also had Travis Kelsey. And I think that's the difference is when you go into the season saying, okay, we'd like to get Hopkins, but at a certain price. We'd like to bring back Juju, but at a certain price. We'd like to get Odell, but at a certain price. We'd like to trade for A.J. Brown, but at a certain price last year. We'd like to do some of those. We want to trade up to get one of these wide receivers, these 4 that went, but at a certain price. That without Kelsey, that price goes up. Right. The certain price, they raise the debt ceiling to
That's absolutely right.
to bring a wide receiver in, or trading for a T.J. Hawkinson or something like that. That's what I think life without Kelsey is an unknown to who the star receiver is and difference maker. This to me is life planning on Kelsey playing and having a group of receivers that are more depth, and Kelsey is injured.
Yeah, I think that's a good angle on it, and I think you could still put a little bit of responsibility on the Chiefs to say, like, hey, the contingency plan that you have for when your nearly 34-year-old tight end does eventually introduce himself to Father Time, and they do eventually begin a decades-long battle for supremacy. Like, I think we're going to see Travis Kelsey playing really high-level football for many more years to come still. I think that's a relatively reasonable expectation because he's been that good.
I also think life without Kelsey might be Mahomes being 31 or 32 years old.
And what it needs to be, I think, for a lot of reasons, is that it's never really life without Kelsey and now life with a brand new number 1 option. It's life without Kelsey meshing. It's life with less Kelsey. Meshing with whatever comes next. And on some level, by going second round, Sky Moore, second round, Rashee Rice, back-to-back years, maybe the Chiefs feel like they've started that sort of meshing process where, hey, as long as one of these guys becomes Patrick Mahomes' favorite number 2 pass catcher over the next few years, over the course of their rookie contract, all right, well, now you got, I'm going to make it Rashee Rice because he had a much better game on Thursday, and his first live action in a real game that counts with Mahomes, that's really encouraging. That's a hard thing to do. But you say, all right, well, if Rashee Rice by the end of this year looks like he can be a number 2 option and a good offense, which is a pretty high praise. I would take that right now, to be clear. Being a number 1 option in this offense means being better than Travis Kelsey. But if he begins that ascent, then maybe next year is the year that you make a more honest swing at a guy who has build an offense around him potential at tight end. Going back through, Seth Kaiser had his film review with the All-22 of all the pass-catching options that came out this morning, and
I haven't read it yet.
A little bit, here's a couple little spoilers, a little bit to my surprise, I'm happy about it, but I'm a little surprised, he was really encouraged by the game that Noah Gray had. The issue,
that's what I was, go ahead.
The issue is that Blake Bell was then playing Noah Gray's role.
Oh yeah,
and then the dominoes continue.
Never thought about that.
This was something else that he wrote about on Thursday morning, I think, or whatever it was. But that I talked about some on post. We talked a little bit about on Friday also. The Chiefs still ran a lot of 12 personnel. It was like 40% of the snaps for Blake Bell. That means you're running a lot of 12. You had a little bit of Matt Bushman out there. They ran a little bit of 13 without the greatest tight end to ever live. 26 snaps, 40% of them for Blake Bell. And Noah Gray had 57 snaps, 88%. That's a Travis Kelsey workload for Noah Gray, and that's a Noah Gray workload for Blake Bell. And that ultimately matters, which, man, we talk about Jody Fortson sometimes. It's the upside. In this case, it's real, man. If Jody Fortson has Blake Bell's 26 snaps and Blake Bell gets to keep his usual role in that game, I think the offense is a little bit different. But ultimately, figuring out how to keep that cupboard stocked, I think, but I don't know. I think the Chiefs will make a point to have a real number 1 option for Patrick Mahomes as long as he's in Kansas City. And then I think they want to have a real rotation, a stable of guys who can always be 2s and 3s that will keep some consistency there. But I think they understand the impact of having one guy who changes how a defense can guard an offense.
The interesting thing from like the wide receivers that are the rookie wide receivers, because Rashee Rice having the 2 catches, having the touchdown, He did have the drop, but then that was the first one, and then he had the catch and run. I mean, it was Mahomes had an outlet, found him, and then Rashee Rice did what they drafted Rashee Rice to do, get out in the open field and run. He also, on the touchdown, gave Mahomes an outlet. Like, he adjusted his route. I don't know if somebody was in the wrong place, but it looked like there was a lot of jumble over there, and Rashee Rice just stopped and then floated back to his right where the open space was, gave Mahomes a wide target, did jumping jacks, and Mahomes hits him, and he catches the ball. He squeezes it. You can tell he really focused on catching that. But looking through the wide receivers, Jackson Smith and Jigba did not have a good game because the Seattle offense didn't have a good game. He had 3 catches, I think 3 catches, 13 yards for Jackson Smith and Jigba. Quentin Johnston also didn't have a good game, which was interesting because, the Chargers did have a good game. Zay Flowers was awesome. Which sucks because that's who I really wanted.
He just looks like he should be in a Chiefs uniform, man.
Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison were the guys I wanted. And then Jordan Addison has the touchdown in Minnesota, has a touchdown reception. Jonathan Mingo didn't do much in Carolina because Carolina didn't do much. Jaden Reed had 4 receptions for, I think, 50 yards, and then also had a big punt return of 35, 40 yards. Rashee Rice had the touchdown. So, it's sort of a mixed bag with those guys. You had the first 4 wide receivers that were taken in week 1. 2 of the 4 looked the part. The other 2, had their struggles. And Quentin Johnston kind of looked like I thought Quentin Johnston would look. A guy who's kind of out there, not really running some great routes. You throw a jump ball to him, double catching when it's thrown his way. And that includes Mike Williams leaving the game for a good portion of that one with a head injury and then coming back in the second half. So it was Keenan Allen, and he was throwing to Palmer. He was throwing to Parham. He was throwing to Everett. He might have been throwing to my son as well.
He could have been.
Rather than throwing to Quentin Johnston.
And it's interesting because the one thing the Chargers didn't have a ton of, or actually really didn't have, almost any of, with one exception to that 36-yard to Keenan Allen, they didn't have big chunk plays in their passing game. They had chunk plays on the ground. They were running the ball at an incredible clip. They were efficient offensively, but the Dolphins out-explosive them in a big way.
The 2 chunk plays the Chargers had was one to Keenan Allen and then the Austin Eckler.
That's right.
35 or 40-yard reception.
Yep.
But that was to the running back. That wasn't a Eckler just go down the sideline and work the middle of, I'm going to throw it 25 yards down the field and you're going to catch it and pick up another 10 yards.
It wasn't, we need a chunk play. It was, we found the chunk play.
Yeah, we found Austin Eckler.
Nice.
Which is why he continues to say he deserves the money and wanted more money because the offense went through him.
Yeah, it really did.
Against the Dolphins. I went back and looked last night, and this is where I think it's going to be troublesome for Justin Herbert moving forward. And this is what he has to improve on, and this is where the Chargers have to improve. And this is even with Kellen Moore, right? He was going to be the difference maker. He was the secret sauce, and he was going to be the straw that stirred the drink that then Justin Herbert could stir that drink.
Running game looked great. That drink is stirred.
Yes. The final 3 drives for the Chargers, back-to-back scoring drives, and then the drive in which they ended up not getting into field goal range and losing the game. But the final 2 scoring drives, Justin Herbert went 6 of 10 for 87 yards. 40 of those were to Austin Eckler. The running game had 13 carries for 56 yards and a touchdown. So they ran 23 plays, 13 of them run plays for 56 yards. The other 10 were Justin Herbert dropbacks in which almost half of all the yards were to the running back in Austin Eckler. The final drive, down by 2, you got like a minute 30 left. Down by 2, they ran 5 plays. Herbert was 2 of 3 for 27 yards, got sacked twice, and had an intentional grounding. When it was all passing, you can't run the ball, you can't throw the outlets, you have to drop back, survey, find receivers, and make plays. 2 sacks, an intentional grounding, 3 attempts for 27 total yards. They picked up a first down on that. When it was, you've got your full offense, you're working, you're not pressed or anything, Austin Eckler, Joshua Kelly, pass to Austin Eckler, Joshua Kelly, Austin Eckler. Ooh, pass to Keenan Allen. It was mixing in the pass for Justin Herbert. That's not what was packaged heading into the season about what Kellen Moore was going to be with Justin Herbert. It's one game.
Yep.
These are the reactions and overreactions and takeaways and all of that stuff. But that would be the concern in L.A. is, well, they found a way to lose yet again because that is just genetic for the Chargers. They found a way to lose, and you had touchdown drive, and then all you needed was a field goal, and you don't go 3 and out, but it's damn near close to going 3 and out. And that's when you needed your quarterback to do the quarterback thing, and he didn't.
He does the I like you said the quarterback thing because he does capital T, capital Q, capital T. The quarterback things, Justin Herbert does so well. He is so good at the quarterback things. And then sometimes say, can you create a little bit here out of structure if something does break down? If that timing, when he's on rhythm, that offense is art to me. When it's a little bit disjointed, when things start to get put under a little bit of pressure, that's when all of the elves come out to keep a common thread, to start poking around and saying, hey, is this Chargers offense actually going to hold together here? And I am fascinated to see really where both teams out of this game go from here, because some of the things you want to talk about, like an offense doing some things schematically that spiced up the entire weekend. What the Dolphins were able to do, not just in the passing game being successful and Tyreek Hill still being really good. Oh boy, not me. That fella is unbelievable. But some of the unique stuff they were doing in motions, and not just jet motions, but motioning out on the same side of the formation, just changing little things they were showing to the Chargers defense. And then there's no way in any form, in any way, shape, or form in the history of the planet that J.C. Jackson was going to cover Tyreek Hill man-to-man right there. There was no shot. He was moving one foot in front of the other faster than J.C. Jackson's feet have ever moved before the snap. Yeah. Good luck. Good luck covering Tyreek Hill ever. I don't know how anyone ever did it.
Well, and that's what's amazing is after that J.C. Jackson interception that Tua threw, he was almost perfect. I mean, the Dolphins had 3 more possessions, touchdown, field goal, touchdown.
Yeah.
And then downs.
Yep.
And then knees.
Yep.
So I guess they had 4 possessions, really. 4 possessions, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, 2 knees, game over. After that interception to J.C. Jackson, Tua was like, bleep it, and he wasn't like he was 28 of 45.
Yeah, there was a lot of volume.
There was a lot of there were chunk plays, and Tyreek was brilliant. Tua was, Tua threw him the ball as well.
There were some great throws.
There really were.
Some great throws from Tua.
There is no downplaying what Tua looked like in that game and what Miami's offense can look like if Tua is healthy.
Having to sprint back a little bit and then climbing the pocket on the run like he did on that one throw. That is one of the throws. I'm not full Tua non, and I'm not fully anti Tua either. I've just sort of been in this little
it's because he's left-handed that people don't like him.
It really is. I like to flip all of his highlights the other way around and see if it makes me feel any differently. But that throw of running up the pocket dart is one of the throws that makes you that if you saw that if you saw that in Alabama, you go, I would like my team to draft that quarterback. That right there is a franchise quarterback type of throw. And those are the things I expected to see a little more often, even from Herbert. We saw it from Tua. It was just a wonderful football game. Messy and imperfect and high scoring and delicious.
And I know people, like to do the quarterback matchups, like when it was Mahomes versus Josh Allen in the divisional round game, and it was the shootout back and forth, and disregarding the fact that Mahomes was going up against the best defense in the NFL in Buffalo, and Josh Allen was going up against the Chiefs defense without Tyrann Mathieu, who was lost on the first drive.
Did that matter?
Tyrann Mathieu was not missing the entire week to where the game plan was going to be around him not being there. The game plan was with Tyrann Mathieu in the middle of the field. Guess where Gabriel Davis destroyed the Chiefs in the middle of the field when there was no Tyrann Mathieu. So that's some context, not necessarily excuses, but it's context to the whole thing. It was an amazing game. So Tua versus Herbert is not those guys going back and forth playing darts.
Right.
They're going up against defenses, whether that be the Dolphins, and the Dolphins have a salty front four. I mean, they have invested some draft picks and money in their front four to put some pressure on Justin Herbert.
They got Jalen Ramsey on the IR right now. In terms of it's more money they've spent.
But when Herbert's 23 of 33 for 228 yards and a touchdown, and Tua is 28 of 45 for 466 and 3. I mean, are people still saying how big of a mistake the Dolphins made by drafting Tua instead of Herbert? because that was a conversation for 2.5, 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're doing that because Herbert has the cannon, and we've seen Herbert do it more often than Tua, and we've seen Tua have the injury problems.
Right.
But if you just went and, in a vacuum, said, here's year number 4 for these two quarterbacks that are drafted back-to-back, here's their line, who made the right decision in drafting? You would go, the Dolphins got it right with Tua. I mean, guy had 120 quarterback rating, 466 yards, 3 touchdowns. The mistake he made in the end zone to J.C. Jackson, he quickly recovered and was awesome. And when the Chargers needed their quarterback to go and be a quarterback, he got sacked twice, had an intentional grounding, and completed a couple of passes, but it was so disjointed that it didn't really look all that connected at all. Boy, they got it right with that one.
Yeah.
And maybe that turns out to be the case. Maybe 2 or 4 years from now is like, wow, he's such a better quarterback than Justin Herbert. Maybe he's got a Super Bowl ring because that team is talented. The question is, can he stay healthy? And when you've got a guy who this offseason admittedly said he contemplated retirement because of head injuries, you're that close to him saying, I just got to hang it up. The rest of my life is more important than this game, and I've made more money than it is already life-changing money, and I can move on and feel like when I'm 60 years old, I'm going to be able to do what I can do with my kids and have a normal life. That's going to be a question moving forward because Herbert has his big contract.
Yep.
Tua, for a reason, they kind of went year to year after that. So I do wonder how that conversation is going to be shaped moving forward with those two, with Miami taking Tua and then the Chargers taking Herbert's very next pick.
It's going to be hard to continue to compare them because of some of the things that people will already dig down in, one of which being, Tyreek Hill going 11 for 215 and 2 touchdowns is a hilarious stat line. And I think people are going to probably unfairly go, all right, so Tua's game managing out here, and you get the ball to 10, and he's going to go, yeah, okay, cool, we all see that. And hey, part of that's true. And also, I'm turning over a new leaf where I don't criticize quarterbacks for doing the obvious thing of getting the ball to the alien. Hey, you know what? It seems like it's hard enough for some people. Go ahead and get the ball to Tyreek Hill. That's fine. But there were big moments in that game where he was delivering dots to Braxton Berrios and River Craycraft. Those are real names of real players. People should know Braxton Berrios. River Craycraft sounds like I don't know what he sounds. He sounds like a fictional explorer. Maybe
He sounds like a baseball player.
Yeah, that's true.
Starting in left field and batting fourth is River Craycraft.
Yeah, he does that between trying to find the Ark of the Covenant. It's just that's what he does on his off time.
Actually, you know what? River Craycraft rose crew for Harvard. I apologize. That's what he does.
Ooh, that's pretty good also. Yeah. Well, apparently he also catches big touchdowns for the Dolphins.
That's right.
Being able to see the offense, and also, again, I think I'm down with Mike McDaniel, but the offense altogether humming the way that it did, and you get some of those big-time throws from your quarterback there also, at some point, if everything works and you get big-time throws, you probably stop asking questions like, hey, how good is this guy really?
Yeah.
Eventually you have to have contract conversations and you have to come back around to that again. But if I'm Mike McDaniel right now, I'm not worrying about anything that happens this upcoming offseason and feeling absolutely electric about how that offense looked yesterday.
Yeah, the after 1 week, the Dolphins have the talent to compete with anybody. The big question that has been there around the Dolphins throughout the offseason has been health. What does Tua look like? Some offensive line, consistent running game, if your secondary is doing what they can to sort of limit Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, can you get a consistent running game with those backs? I mean, maybe. Will it matter? We'll see. It didn't matter in this particular matchup against the Chargers, against, another really, really good offense. If he stays healthy, the Dolphins are absolutely contenders in the AFC. And they'll be getting Jalen Ramsey back in December, right?
Yeah, it's still expected later this year, yes.
Mid-December, late December, so they'll get him back for a playoff run. So that, in theory, depending on attrition, that defense will just get better, and they'll add another star there. They have gone all in, and they've put together pieces, but it is so difficult to win because you need a lot of things to fall your favor. You need some luck from time to time, absolutely, and you need health. And last year, the Dolphins did not have health. And they still almost went to Buffalo and won that game in the preseason in the playoffs.
That's why I was going to say that I almost would put Tyreek on the level of Tua as far as the importance of health. for that team because
Yeah.
Tyreek was still on that squad, and
Yeah.
that's where they ended up. And I feel like if you take Tyreek, I mean, you lose 200 yards receiving, basically, yesterday. So,
And I would not want to do that for my fantasy team since
and I played him yesterday. So that was fun.
I have him, and he's the only reason why I won the first week because, whoo boy, my team was capital T rash. I had Dallas Goedert, who got nary a target.
Oof.
I had Jerick McKinnon, which is why I've been complaining about no Jerick McKinnon for the last 4 days.
Usage.
I had Jamar Chase in his 39 yards receiving. I had Jalen Hurts in his indecisive, not wanting to really throw the football or kind of do I want to run it or hand it off here. I had Tyreek Hill in his 55 points. So thank you, Reek.
I was an absolute lock to go 3-0. And then 2 of my teams played against the Cowboys defense.
Oh no! See,
And
that's
so now I'm 2-1. It's still okay.
We do IDP. We don't have defenses.
It's never mattered like that before. I've never seen 35 points in a standard league.
I hate playing with defenses and kickers.
Yeah,
No,
I'm gonna. Hey,
freaking thank you.
I'm the commissioner of that league. I'm just gonna go change it. 3-0, baby.
IDP is so much better.
I can sum up my fantasy day in one sentence. I started Sky Moore and played Tyreek Hill.
Hey man, it could be worse. So do the Chiefs.
The Chiefs. Damn it! That was going to be my. That was going to be my. That was going to be my exit. Damn it!
Now we got to come up with another one.
Yes. Well, the Chiefs are 0-1 because they traded Tyreek Hill and drafted Sky Moore.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com in the 810 mobile app.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Text says nobody cares. We got that Braden Gall one in there. That
we got a fresh one, too, now.
That's right. That's right.
Nobody cares.
Yeah! We're back.
I almost really screwed over Braden on Friday. So Friday night, he was hosting ESPN Radio, and he texted me during the day, and he was like, hey, man, you got some time tonight to come on and talk about the Chiefs and week one and the reaction and maybe a little Chris Jones? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, man. And he's like, all right, how does like 7:35 Central sound? I'm like, perfect. That's great. So I'm sitting around. I've done some yard work and everything, because I'm a grown-ass man, domesticated.
Damn right. I built a fire this weekend.
That's right. Typically, our trash pickup is Friday, but with Monday holiday, it meant it was Saturday, which was great. So I got a chance to go and get some yard work done Friday night, put those that yard waste out there, call it a day. Boom, bing, bong, boom. Get done, shower, clean up, dinner. Watch is dying because the Apple Watch keeps a charge for 10 minutes. Yeah. So I charge my Apple Watch, which I've got my alarm for 7:30 on there, so I'm ready to go. Charge the Apple Watch, dinner and everything, and getting ready for bedtime with the kids. Book and their bath and everything, and I'm like, man, I feel like it's getting close. Like I need to check the time, and I look at my Apple Watch, and I'm like, oh bleep, I never put it back on.
Oh no!
And I go grab my phone. And it's 7:40. Oh. My phone was in a different room, and it's got like 5 missed calls.
Oh, it's the worst.
Braden Gall text, hey, man, you there? It's like, I have him on every week for 2 years, and he asked me to come on one time. And I always set an alarm when I'm going on in different cities. Always do that 5 minutes before they're supposed to call. And I did. It's just my phone was in a different room, and my freaking Apple Watch holds a charge for 10 minutes. So I immediately called them, and they're like, yeah, man, we're getting ready to go to break in this segment. You good to go for the next one? I'm like, yes, I am absolutely good to go in the next segment. Thank God they didn't have another guest, because then I would have felt awful. So at least I was able to go on, and then they asked me how I'm doing, and I said, I apologize about the previous segment. I'm clearly hanging out with Kadarius Toney. I dropped the ball. It was a long way to get to that joke. I don't think I should have skipped out on that segment just to offer that joke.
I think it was worth it.
I don't know that they agree. I'll ask Braden Gall tomorrow if he agrees. Braden,
are you sure you'll ask Braden Gall tomorrow? Or would you like me to look around for another guest for tomorrow? Are we sure? Are we sure he's going to pick up the phone this week?
We're going to have Braden Gall on at 1:20. We'll get a hold of him at 1:40. So
I think he might talk to Sarin at about 2:15 tomorrow.
It's only fair.
That is, I'll tell you what, if that was all a long con to get that joke off, I think it was all worth it. I'm sure Braden understands. Theater of the mind and all that.
He totally understands. I know that when they when I called him and they put me on hold, the last 2 or 3 minutes they were talking about Chiefs and Lions. So clearly Chiefs Lions was scheduled for that particular
They have you back on talking about the stadium construction in Nashville, or what was the
exactly right. Texas and gone James Anderson.
Yeah, that's
and gone Anderson. 913-912-4810. We'll talk with Field Yates coming up at noon, but we will talk with Braden Gall, our college football insider, tomorrow. Who's looked better of the local teams?
Mizzou.
No, I meant like who's looked better. So you know what? I agree, Mizzou. If you take away the Chiefs, the K-State, KU, and Lee Summit North.
Sorry, I thought you just meant the local Missouri SEC schools, and so that's my bad.
That makes sense. Yeah, the local Missouri SEC school compared to the other local Missouri SEC schools looked awesome, undefeated.
2 more wins than the rest of the Missouri SEC schools combined.
Undefeated, never lost. I liked Cole Kublik, who was an SEC guy. He goes through each week and tweets out general thoughts in one tweet about every single SEC game. And he got to Missouri, and it was handled business against Middle Tennessee State. Offensive line, blah, blah, blah. But the defensive unit looks really good. The front seven, handled business, really. They were 3 touchdown favorites. That team lost by 50 a week ago. Yeah. And they had the ball late With what, a 4-point lead or whatever it was?
4 points. Yep, 4-point final.
You got a coach that has 4th and 1 at the other team's 41-yard line.
Oh, I can't do this again.
And punts. You know, it's tougher to go 85 yards than it is to go. You know the most difficult way to score the football?
When you don't have it.
Bingo. Unless you're DeForest Buckner.
Exactly. Unless you're the Colts.
The most difficult way for your offense to score is when they are on the sideline. And the fact that he punted it there, doesn't that tell you a lot about his faith in that offensive line, which was trash against Middle Tennessee State, and his quarterback, who was saved by the swing pass that wasn't guarded to Pete that went, 60 yards or whatever and missed Luther Burden a couple times, and that was rough. So the answer is not Missouri.
No, it's not. I'm sorry to bring that
but
up.
I really do. But I do think it's an interesting one between KU and K-State.
I do too,
because KU has the most impressive win.
That's right.
But K-State has looked freaking dominant. Like, just K-State has looked like the really well-coached Big 12 championship contending top 15 school that goes out there and just does what they're supposed to do regardless of opponent. And Troy had won 12 games in a row. And in 8 quarters of football, the only touchdown drive Kansas State has given up, they had 2 penalties on that drive, giving a first down to the other team. That's the only touchdown drive they have given up in 8 quarters. I don't care if it was Southeast Missouri State and Troy. That is ridiculous and dominant. KU was dominating Illinois.
Yep.
The score was closer than what, and the score wasn't even all that close. They still won by 2 scores.
And
still won by double digits.
That's what I was going to say. Is, and my vote ever so slightly is KU here, which is no slight at all to K-State. You make a great point. If that's what handling business actually looks like. When you're an actual team that goes out there and handles business.
Thank you.
Nothing but good things to say about K-State so far. But KU gets my vote for having by far the most interesting non-con game of the first couple of weeks of the year.
Yeah.
And being absolutely dominant over Illinois until literally garbage time. And it still wasn't scary. It just got closer.
Yeah. And Blair brought up a good point, too, and he said, it's so early in the season. It's a couple of weeks, and we don't have a whole lot of data points. He goes, in 6-7 weeks, who's to say that Troy doesn't look like a better team than Illinois?
Sure.
Like if that's the case, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, Troy has not lost, and they beat this team and that team, and they're dominating, and look what K-State did against them. My goodness. K-State has looked the most dominant.
Yeah.
But KU has the most impressive win, and they've done it with 2 quarterbacks.
Yep.
They did it week 1 with Jason Bean, and then Jalen Daniels did his thing against Illinois. So I was surprised as to how dominant they looked against Illinois in that game. And so maybe the answer ends up being KU because they played that way against a Power 5 Big Ten opponent. And then late in the game, Illinois made it a little bit close. But it's clearly those 2.
Yeah.
And then a gap. And then the Grand Canyon.
And then Grand Canyon University.
Right. And then the Atlantic Coast Conference Ocean. And then Lee Summit North, obviously. And
then the Chiefs.
Well, yeah. Even in a losing effort, because they have a quarterback.
Yeah.
Although they have a coach that won't go for it on 4th down either. So
Yeah,
they've got
that's
that going
hilarious.
for them. And then Mizzou. It just, I don't know. Maybe this is all setting up to go, haha, gotcha, K-State. You thought we sucked. We lulled you to sleep. You thought you were going to walk in here after punking us by 30 last year, and you have been dominant, and we barely beat Middle Tennessee State. We haven't covered either game the first 2 weeks. You thought you were going to walk in here? Oh.
Is that still 5.5?
Yeah. It moved from 3 to 5.5 pretty quickly.
I'm still not afraid of 5.5.
No, I'm not either. If I didn't take a bath on the NFL yesterday, I would have already placed money on K-State. What's that going to get to? 7?
I would.
7.5, 8?
Where would it have to get to before you would say, all right, MIZ, baby?
17.5.
Like, is it really? I mean, because one possession is not doing it for me at all.
The issue right now with the 3 local schools is 2 of them really feel like they are in good hands with their coach.
Yeah.
And the third one is talking about If you keep it within 10 to K-State, that's pretty good. Missouri, not Kansas.
Yeah.
Missouri, not Kansas, is talking about a moral victory within double digits. You don't even have to win that game. If you just don't get embarrassed, you got to feel pretty good about that. That in and of itself is embarrassing. And perception of coaching hires, it's why I always say, like, this is a good hire because he's a good coaching prospect. It's not a great hire, he's going to be awesome. Shaka Smart, I said it at the time when Texas hired Shaka Smart. I said, Texas, they're the school that got Shaka Smart. But let's remember the reaction right now. If it doesn't work out, it wasn't some dumb decision. Shaka Smart looks like a really good coaching prospect at the next level. We don't know yet because we haven't seen it. Yeah. So Kleiman, Leipold, Eli, they all looked like good coaching prospects at the next level.
But they were all prospects at the time.
But the perception around the three, Eli, you got him. He was coveted. You outbid Arkansas for Eli. Kansas State, you had to go get Chris Kleiman? You went to Chris Kleiman, 1AA? Like, okay, yeah, he's fine, but, boy, that is so milquetoast that you got him. Kansas, Lance Leipold, if he was any good, he would have been hired in the hiring cycle. He didn't get hired from Buffalo for a reason, and he's available now when you're firing Les Miles in an odd time because nobody hired him. So maybe he's going to be pretty good, but no other team believed in him. And now what are we looking at? Leipold's a stud, Kleiman's a stud, and Eli is in year 4 talking about a moral victory by losing within 10 points to K-State.
I can't manage your expectations.
That's true. He cannot. He cannot. That is a fact. He cannot manage my expectations.
I think it is a really healthy thing for us to start trying to get in the practice of by calling head coaching candidates head coaching prospects when they go up a level. Because I think you're 100% right that very often, and frankly, the one time there was backlash to this might have been with Dion in Colorado of going, oh, come on, what are we really? Do we think this one's gonna work? And, it looks like it's working. But so often it is, yes, this is the sought after wonderkind. This is going to turn around this big Power 5 program that's been sputtering as of late. Obviously not quite the same way with K-State. I'm speaking in generalities. But this is the guy that's going to turn this program around because we saw him turn around a smaller program in a very different environment. You can make good bets and bad bets, but they are all a little bit of a gamble still when you're deciding who's going to lead your program.
Yep.
Not to get way far afield, but 8 months ago, Michigan State had the most sought-after head coaching situation and recent hire and a huge contract. That was literally a year ago, right? I mean, when you and obviously in that case, we're talking about the people who you hire, which is a different part of the conversation.
That's right.
No one's having any of those conversations around the 3 guys who are here at the local schools, but there's just a lot going on when you're deciding who's going to be effectively the CEO of one of your state's biggest things, period. Kansas State football, Mizzou football, KU football has been on that rise now for long enough that there's a lot on those guys' shoulders, and figuring out which candidates are going to become great long-term head coaches is a very inexact science.
I said it at the time, the best thing that was happening for KU was, while it might have been embarrassing, but the best thing that was happening for KU was Jeff Long and Les Miles being fired around that time. Because you could kind of start over. And I know it wasn't the regular hiring cycle, but you can kind of start over because there was zero chance it was going to work with Les Miles. It just wasn't. It wasn't going to work when they hired him. Thought it was a terrible hire at the time. And you go for the name. But what does KU what does KU and K-State have that Missouri does not? Well, I mean, take the head coach aside. I know there's jokes about the head coach and all that stuff. I mean, like legitimately on the field. What's the biggest difference you see between those two schools? Because KU is not more talented than Missouri.
Yeah.
When you're talking about recruiting and things like that. It's quarterback.
Head coach and quarterback. And you said to leave head coach out, but that's where every one of those conversations begins. Head coach and quarterback.
It's quarterback. From what Will Howard did last year to what he's doing now, to Jalen Daniels, what he did last year to what he's doing now, and then Brady Cook, what he's not doing, and staying with Brady Cook and what people were hoping Sam Horn would be. And it's why I said about Les Miles, it's a terrible hire, because Les Miles was able to win in spite of not having a good quarterback. When you're at Missouri, KU, or K-State, you damn sure better have the quarterback. Gary Pinkel did. Mark Mangino did. Bill Snyder did. You can add and supplement, but you better have that right, because you're not recruiting like Georgia and Alabama and Clemson. You've got to make – even Clemson and Dabo didn't win without a generational quarterback.
Alabama realized that it's easier to start winning when you do have the quarterback.
Yeah.
Even Alabama came around on that.
Yeah. This text, and I don't disagree with this text. Text says Drinkwitz was all flash and sizzle, Leipold and Kleiman of substance.
Yeah.
And they do. It feels like there's so much more. It's so much more substantive with those two guys than what it is with Eli. And Lance Leipold has been awesome, and I'm just so incredibly impressed with Chris Kleiman.
Yep.
That is just such a well-coached team, man. It's got to be one of the most comforting feelings to go into a football game and say, I think my team's going to play. I don't know if they're going to win, because whatever team is on the other side, but I know they're going to be well-coached and prepared. And they're going to have what they should have taken care of. And you're not going to watch a team go out there and just pee down their leg and look awful and have all of these, coverage issues and false starts and holds and all these penalties. It's not going to happen with Chris Kleiman. You just, every week, you're like, this is just going to be a really well-coached team. I mean, you got a couple studs in Kansas right now. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling more zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 8.
noon. So in just a little bit, Field Yates from ESPN, NFL Insider. We will talk with him about things that have taken place in Week 1. Not fully finished yet with Monday Night Football coming up tonight, but what he saw from the Chiefs, any concerns there moving forward, what he makes of the Chris Jones situation and being in attendance. I do wonder if Chris Jones is going to show up in Jacksonville.
Closer to Miami than Kansas City is.
Is he going to be there against the Bears?
Sure, why not?
Because he wanted to be there for his brothers.
Yeah.
Wanted to be in attendance for his brothers. Want to be there for his teammates.
Oh, Jason. His cat's brothers.
Damn it, that's what it was.
He wanted to be there for his cat's brothers.
All right. We'll talk with Field Yates.
He's not holding out.
Not yet.
It's finally time. My friends at Base Camp Fitness had an amazing ribbon cutting ceremony recently, and they're now open.
Hear from Andy Reid coming up later on this hour, his Monday press conference. We will hear from the head coach of the Chiefs, 0-1, getting ready for the Jags on Sunday in Jacksonville. Right now, very pleased to bring in our NFL insider from ESPN, joining us as he will each and every Monday at noon. It is Field Yates joining us here in the zone. Field, how are you, sir?
Jason, I'm doing well. Great to be back with you, and looking forward to a wonderful season ahead.
And so are we. And week one is always one of those to where, what did we actually learn? What are the stories about? And just the small data points that we have could be completely different, 8, 9, 10 weeks from now. Let's start with the Chiefs. They end up losing to the Lions 21-20. There have been a lot of conversation about what went wrong around here with that game. But what did you see in that game, and any concerns moving forward for the Chiefs that you may have seen something that could knock them down a peg or two in the AFC?
Not a significant concern for me, Jason. And I would say this, is that every AFC team shares a concern this year. The concern is that the conference is very good. I know that nobody necessarily dominated in week one in the AFC, at least not yet, but I think there's reason to believe that in the AFC East, the Jets and Bills and Dolphins are going to be very good. Meanwhile, the Patriots hung with the Eagles and had a chance to win twice late yesterday over the team that went to the Super Bowl in the NFC. AFC North, Bengals, despite what they showed yesterday, are going to be good. The Browns are improved. The Steelers got walloped. I'm a bit more concerned about them, but then the Ravens should be a good team as well. AFC South, I think, is a little bit shallower, but there's 8, 9, 10 teams that could make a legitimate run at a playoff spot this year in the conference. So my concerns for the Chiefs are no different than the ones that I have for everybody else in the conference. I don't think, though, that week one is going to escalate some sort of Chris Jones negotiation to get done right now for Kansas City, which seems to be one of the narratives. Is just pay Chris Jones whatever it takes to get him back on the field. He's a great player, an all-pro level player, one of the best defensive players in football. I don't think Thursday night was as simple as you just didn't have Chris Jones. Could he have impacted that game? Of course he could have. But this Chiefs team I still think is very well positioned to be one of the best, if not the best teams in the AFC this season.
Almost feel like pay Travis Kelce whatever he was needing holding out. I know he was just injured, but if we were talking about a holdout, that boy, you better give that guy the bag. Travis Kelce looked like he was missed much more than Chris Jones was. That whether it be the wide receivers or just out of sync or timing, connection, whatever it might be, it just looked like the Chiefs' offense was off a tick or two. And maybe that's the difference of having Kelce out there and having the blanket to throw to, or the guy that can do so much for other players on the field that, it makes it less of a need to win one-on-one if you're one of these wide receivers on the outside, if there's so much attention being paid to Travis Kelce when he's on the field.
No doubt about it. What he does is he puts everybody in their proper spot in batting order, right? It's like all of a sudden you've got guys that shouldn't be number one receivers yet. They're forced into that number one or number one target role, right? And while the Chiefs, I don't want to relitigate the Tyreek Hill trade because they won the Super Bowl last year, right? Like if that trade had taken place and they had gone 6-11 and then they were 0-1 again this year, we'd have a different narrative. But this team is clearly capable of not just winning, but also winning because, in large part, the quarterback was the best thrower on the planet again last year. I'm not trying to make this a Travis Kelce versus Tyreek Hill debate, but when you have neither of them, it's pretty clear that the sort of the order of operations is just a bit mixed up right now in Kansas City, and maybe that'll change over time as Sky Moore develops, and maybe Rashee Rice develops further. With the Chiefs, though, as we know, because they're so good and every season matters so much when you're in the prime of Patrick Mahomes' career, they don't have a ton of time to wait. But I think Travis Kelce being back, and it sounds like there's a real chance he'll be back this Sunday down in Jacksonville, I think there's a real chance that this offense looks much more like it's back on its axis just with the reacclimation of Travis Kelce into the lineup.
Field Yates is our guest from ESPN NFL Insider. Have you ever seen anything like a player holding out throughout training camp and missing a game but showing up in the stands to watch the game like we saw with Chris Jones on Thursday?
I haven't seen that in a while. I would hope that it's a sign that at least, here's what I would say. I infer from that while nothing is done, and while I would not guarantee anything getting done today or tomorrow or this week, that at least the two sides are cordial enough right now that like dialogue can be had. Typically, when a contract negotiation has lasted this long and there is not a very clear end in sight, my interpretation of it is usually something to this effect: that the gap is really wide and both sides aren't going to admit the other is correct in their stance on how the player should be paid, right? And there's been a lot of conversation. Chris Jones, was it Twitter where he said I just want to raise or something like that.
It was at the press conference on Wednesday, an impromptu press conference, in front of the Ronald McDonald House.
I just want to raise. That's right. That's right. Yes, I just want to raise. Yeah, and it's not that simple, right? Obviously, it's not that simple, because if it were, then they would have found a way to give him a raise and be back right now, be back yesterday.
Also, the offer on the table is a raise. So
it sounds like it is a raise. I think there's a real sort of slippery slope that I've seen some discourse over, and trying to compare a Chris Jones contract to the Nick Bosa deal, not just because of the fact that they play different positions, but also Chris Jones in the final year of a 4-year-old contract. Of course, the deal is going to look weak in year 4 compared to the starting points of Nick Bosa's deal. In the same way that on an average annual basis, Patrick is now the 9th highest paid quarterback, when he's clearly number 1 amongst quarterbacks, and maybe a deal gets done there at some point in the next year that puts him way back ahead of the pack. But contracts age so quickly in the NFL, especially at premium positions. So I think I understand exactly why Chris Jones wants a big raise. I think I also understand why this deal is not as simple to get done as, all right, he's the best or second best defensive tackle in the NFL. Just pay him, a little below Aaron Donald. Let's wrap this up, and he's back on the field this Sunday against Jacksonville.
Yeah, Field Yates is our guest from ESPN. After this last week and then the game on Thursday and the feeling out of Arrowhead that they were none too pleased with him showing up to the stadium, I do wonder if Week 8 becomes more of a possibility, becomes more likely.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Jason goes, there's no turning back on the money that he's given up so far, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's
obviously, if a deal gets done, he'll make a lot of money, much more than he was scheduled to make this year, $19.5 million. At the same time, let's just say, I'm just making this up here. Let's say there's a deal that comes in at 3 years and it's $80 million. It would have been 3 years and $83 million if it was agreed to a month and a half ago, as opposed to right now when he has forfeited. I'm sure you know the number more specifically than I do, but I think it's like $3 or $3.5 million, right?
Yeah, it's so he lost 2.25 in fines from training camp and 1.1 from the lost salary.
Yeah, so almost
and also lost
$3.35 million.
Yeah, and also lost $500,000 in a workout bonus by not showing up to OTAs and minicamp. So really, it's about $4 million.
$4 million in, to me. That to me is truly, it's a lot of money, obviously, to sacrifice, but he's putting his money where his mouth is and seems to believe that he is going to end up getting what he wants and what he so desires, but it may cost him. I mean, Week 8, that would push us to, if my math is correct, close to $11-12 million sacrifice. So you just hope for the player. I don't know enough about the ins and outs here, obviously. I'm not as tethered to this contract as I'm sure other reporters are. I would just say that, you just hope this one comes to fruition in a way that more than makes up for that $11 million, because, as I said, there's no toothpaste going back into the tube. That money is gone. There's no rescinding the fines. There's no, all right, all good, we got the new deal, and by the way, you get that check or that cash back. There is none of that with the situation. This is not Nick Bosa, because he was on his rookie contract, as I'm sure you've educated your listeners on 500 times over the past month.
That's right. Field Yates from ESPN is our guest. And to re-educate, those fines can be waived on a rookie deal. So Field Yates from ESPN is our guest. We talked a little bit today about the Bengals and what they looked like against the Browns, just because obviously when we're talking about the Chiefs, we're talking about Bengals and Bills and, the Dolphins and Chargers and things like that. Is that just a terrible day for the Bengals offense? Is there other concerns there? Are the Browns better and maybe more salty than people were giving credit for what they could be with Jim Schwartz's defense? What do you take away in that one particular game from the Bengals and even the Browns side?
Yeah, so I'll start with Cincinnati, because maybe this may not be a fair thing to do, but they have started slow in recent seasons. So I think I'm sort
true.
of nonplussed by it, right? Last year they were 0-2, and then they finished up the season 12-4. So my general sense on Cincinnati is they'll be fine. Not that coaches' words are always the only thing that matters, but Zach Taylor made it pretty clear after the game what his message was. And his message to his team was, that's not the team that we're going to be going forward. Way too much talent there, especially on the offensive side of the ball, to put up 3 points. So, they'll be better. Joe Burrow will not have over 30 passing attempts and under 100 passing yards very often, or whatever the exact number was.
It was a hell of a parlay that
meanwhile,
you hit if you had that one.
Yeah. And on the Brown side, a little more what we were thinking, right? Like it felt like this offseason, one of the themes was coordinator hires that could make a notable difference and represent a pretty significant upgrade. I felt like the Browns married their personnel to their scheme more on defense, especially, where Jim Schwartz had a nice start there yesterday for Cleveland, one of a handful of coordinators that I think are going to make a pretty significant impact over the course of the season.
What do you think we see tonight? I mean, is tonight going to be about, obviously, it'll be about Aaron Rodgers and DeMar Hamlin, his return to football, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. But is tonight going to be about the inefficiencies at the offensive line for the Jets that we may see in this game? But it should be a fun one. I hope it is, because last night's was such a dog, and Thursday's was not entertaining, at least for people around here, with the Chiefs and Lions. But what do you what do you think we'll see tonight?
Yeah, Jason, I as the father of 2 kids under 2 now, Sunday Night Football can often be a tough one, after a long day already at work and watching the games, which is such a joy and an honor that we get to do it. But, falling asleep on the couch last night didn't feel quite as incriminating on my part. I think it was 29-0 or 26-0 in the middle of the third quarter when I went when I realized I had snoozed a little bit there. But I think tonight the Jets played the Bills really well defensively last year. Like, they've had, as much as a team can have Josh Allen's number, they've had it. So I think this tonight is, to your point, it's about the Jets offense, and can they protect Aaron Rodgers? And it's not because the Bills' defensive front is dominant without Von Miller, but it is good, and their secondary is usually extremely disciplined and well-coached by Sean McDermott, who's had a defensive back specialty throughout his career. So I've got my eyes on that Jets offensive line because we saw it throughout the NFL this preseason and to a degree during the regular season week 1, but so many bad offensive lines during the preseason. There were some teams that I thought were better than others yesterday, and quarterbacks certainly going to offset that by getting the ball out quickly. But I thought there were some pretty notable offensive line performances yesterday that will carry over into tonight. And, the one thing about offensive line play is that if it's not good, there's not a lot of places to turn to because it's not good for about 25 out of 32 teams in the NFL. There are not a bunch of warm bodies available on the free agent market that are going to turn the tides of your offensive line.
Last one for you, because this is our first conversation. Typically, we have the conversation before the season starts. But who do you have in the Super Bowl? Who over who?
I picked the Chiefs over the 49ers. So I had the almost repeat of last year's game. I feel pretty good about the 49ers side of it. The Chiefs will be fine. They'll be fine. Obviously, it's going to take some time. I look forward to our chat next week because a game with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, which I certainly expect, I think will certainly that to me will give us a much more clear indication of where this Chiefs team is going against a good Jaguars team, but I don't think a very good defensive team in Jacksonville. They had their hands full at times yesterday with some of the things that Indy was bringing to the table, and obviously the Chiefs have decided the edge both in terms of quarterback play, offensive line play, in really everything play over the Colts on offense right now.
Yeah, and you mentioned offensive line, that Jags have struggled with that as well. I also have Chiefs over 49ers, so we'll see what happens with that. Field Yates from ESPN. Yes, I know, right? Chalk. That's I really went out on a limb there with the Chiefs 49ers.
Yeah, well, same here.
All right, Field Yates from ESPN NFL Insider. Field, as always, really appreciate the time, brother, and looking forward to our conversations this year.
Right back to you, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. There's Field Yates from ESPN NFL Insider. Great stuff from Field. And, we'll sprinkle some fantasy football stuff along the way as well with Field. But yes, it is interesting. He said one of the themes of this weekend was some shoddy offensive line play. And there's no doubt about that. We saw a number of teams go through that with some struggles at the offensive line. And Jacksonville was one of them. And that's a team that coming into this season, there was already concerns about their offensive line. Cam Robinson out for 4 games. He'll miss Sunday. And, the Chiefs, they were able to pressure Jared Goff. They got a couple of sacks. Although, did Karlaftis count as an actual sack, which is BS if it didn't? Because on the actual the game book, it shows 1 sack for the Chiefs, Mike Dana, and it doesn't show one for Karlaftis. I think that's ridiculous how he would not get a sack for that because he tackled Jared Goff when he recovered the football.
ESPN.com box score still has no sack listed for George Karlaftis, which Dylan means the George Karlaftis ZOU Unders Club continues to celebrate.
Well, we're gonna put an asterisk next to that.
We talked about it during the game. We went, oh, that's a sack for Karlaftis. That stinks for us. We just took the under like an hour and a half ago, and apparently the NFL had our backs.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. And then after the game, like Chiefs get 1 sack on Goff. I'm like, nah, they got 2. That's that person is wrong. Whoever said that, idiot. And I'm looking at the game book. I'm like, what? Where's the Karlaftis sack? Because Karlaftis got a sack last year against the Bengals when Joe Burrow was just running to his left and then slid. And then Karlaftis touched him. Mm-hmm. And he got a sack for that. What's the difference between the quarterback just surveying and then sliding on his own or the quarterback fumbling the football going and sliding on it and the guy touches him?
I don't know. I'm guessing that
So did Goff get negative rushing yards for that?
Good question. I'm guessing that they called it giving himself up. Well, Goff has 5 carries for negative -1 yards on the day
and he
here.
Took knees, so
I don't know. His long was 2, so he had +2 in there somewhere, and then some knees, and then maybe also that. I'm not sure.
We're gonna get to the bottom of this.
What drive was that on? I wrote it. Hold on. I'll have it for us by the next segment. I have my notes here.
Promise.
I think it might be the only time I wrote down Karlaftis' name. Yeah, it was. 3rd defensive drive. I wrote snap hits the motion man. Goff falls on it. Karlaftis, quote, sack. So defensive 3rd drive. That could have been an aborted play since it's a fumble.
Okay, so it says in the NFL game book, Jared Goff aborted.
Yep.
Frank Ragnow fumbles at KC 24. Recovered by Detroit's Jared Goff at KC 27. Jared Goff to KC 27 for no gain. Tackle George Karlaftis.
Got the tackle.
It's ridiculous. That's a TFL though, right? It's got to be a TFL.
Got to be a TFL.
I mean, that was a TFL of 10 yards.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to go check and see if George Karlaftis was credited with some tackles for loss
Boy,
here.
if he was not credited with the tackles for loss, let me just scroll through the book here.
7 tackles, 3 solo, 1 TFL.
1 TFL.
And a pass defended.
Yep. You know what we didn't do ZOUs for? TFL. I think that's BS. Asterisk next to that. That TFL should be an SACK if you're asking ME.
You'll BRB.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thank you to Field Yates, our NFL insider from ESPN, joining us to talk about the NFL Week 1. Not done yet, as Jets and Bills tonight. And we'll see what the Jets' offensive line looks like. And if they can protect Aaron Rodgers, we'll see what that offense looks like, what the connections are. And the Buffalo Bills, that is a team that I've seen, people picking to win the Super Bowl. I understand it. They're really talented. I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl last year. I picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't know. Maybe I flipped them. We'll see.
Maybe we should have picked the Bills.
I hope not. I'm going to pick the Bills every single year. The Bills had the number one pick. Yeah, but I'm picking the Bills because it's worked out well for the Chiefs, 1-for-1. Andy Reid talking with the media, and he had his press conference via Zoom today.
I really don't have anything to tell you on the injuries other than Trav is getting better. He's progressing. We'll see how he does the rest of today and tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. As far as Chris, updates on Chris, I really don't have much of an update for you there. There is communication going on, however, and that's a plus, and Brett's taking care of all that. As far as the game goes, listen, there were some good things. There were some things we obviously need to work on. We'll get the receiving things taken care of. I feel good about the receivers that we have. That was just we're not normally guys that drop the ball, but we did. And so that's reality, but we've got to fix that. I think we still have some talent there that they'll just keep improving as they continue to play. I've seen what they can do before, so I'm figuring we'll get that worked out. And then defensively, there were some good things. There were some real positives. The 3rd and 12 got us, but there were some positive things in there. Again, that we can work on, and there's some things that we need to clean up. But I thought the effort was there. I thought that was good. I thought for the most part the plan was good on both sides, and then the special teams part of it. We had worked real hard on all these different fakes, and they got us. I mean, they got us in a position there where they needed a couple yards, and they were able to get that. The penalty before that, they gave them just 2 yards ago wasn't good.
Yeah, they got them on that, and there's certainly some things that they can clean up. Not expecting the wide receivers to have a game like that again. One of the things that we sort of pointed out, with all the jokes about Kadarius Toney, in his career before this year, he's had 86 targets and was credited with 5 drops. On Thursday, he had 5 targets and 2 drops. So you wouldn't expect, he had 2 drops all of last year combined in all of the targets that he had. 110 pass routes and two drops. He had 11 pass routes and 2 drops on Thursday. So as Andy Reid saying, not a guy that typically does that. Well, he hasn't necessarily been a guy that typically does that. He's not a guy that catches every single thing in sight, but 2 drops all of last year and 2 drops on Thursday night. Which one is more likely? 3 drops all of his rookie year in 218, pass routes. Which one is more likely? I would guess it's more likely of what the back of his baseball card in the first 2 years of his career looks like. But we'll see. Guys have developed the yips before, and that was national TV. And he got he was the butt of a lot of jokes. And Giants fans got a lot of those jokes off at Kadarius Toney. So we'll see what he ends up doing coming up as they take on the Jags. And they're going to need Kadarius Toney, but there's a chance that Travis Kelce will play. Thought it interesting. Andy Reid immediately addresses Travis Kelce's health and then Chris Jones.
Yep.
You're going to be asked about it. Not much of an update on Chris Jones. They are communicating. And Veach is handling that. Adam Teicher asked Andy Reid about Kadarius Toney's rough game last Thursday.
Yeah, you know what, Adam? I would probably take the blame on that. I mean, the kid, when I said that after the game, I meant that. He missed all the training camp from honestly the first punt return pre-practice on through. So he literally had no training camp until just the last few days when we got back here, he did some, and we measured that. We didn't give him a lot. But with that, I thought him getting in the game was important. And then, but to be fair, I've got to kind of look in the mirror on that one. That I probably didn't put him in the best position there because he doesn't drop the ball. I mean, that's just not his deal. He's a very, very secure catcher, and I just think that the only way we're going to get him back is playing him. I think this week will be different than the last week, but I thought it was important that he got in the game, got caught up on the speed. But I probably put him in bad positions, in primary positions there, and especially later in the game, he's still getting his legs back and all that bit. So,
are there things you need to do with him to kind of get him back on that path, get him?
Yeah, I think. Listen, I think he's had some time here now to keep working, which I think will benefit him. Getting in that game, I thought was an important thing. I mean, that part was important. Putting him in the positions I did, I probably shouldn't have done that. But I think you'll see better as we go down the road here from him.
It's really fascinating from Andy Reid to me because we wondered on Friday, and I asked Matt Derrick about it, why the flip in routes that Rashee Rice was getting a good portion of routes in the first half and Kadarius Toney wasn't. And in the second half, that kind of flipped. Kadarius Toney got a lot more of the routes that Rashee Rice, not necessarily the specific ones, but just Rashee Rice was running fewer routes in the second half that he did in the first half. Kadarius Toney was running more. And as Andy Reid saying, I got to put him in a better position, and wasn't there all of training camp, and especially late in the game with trying to get his legs, that, maybe Andy Reid just saying you probably shouldn't have been out there. Wanted to get him in the game to get up to speed, but in the fourth quarter, on that drive, do you want the guy in there that hasn't had all of preseason and is still trying to get his wind and his conditioning and fitness while also needing to catch the football, but also catch the football?
Probably put him in bad positions, primary positions. Super interesting. Yeah. Because, again, I think everything we've been talking about with the first two clips, that's not really who Toney is. He's not a drops guy. But it's also kind of funny because you say, hey, catch the ball. Training camp, you don't think of being the time. It's not like his hands are out of physical shape. I'm guessing that his hands are still about as strong as they would be after some camp. Maybe there's something about, all the reps you can get there, but he looked rusty in every way possible. And I often sort of get vaguely annoyed at Andy Reid for saying things like, I got to be better, that's on me, and then not explaining what the specifics are. This is a pretty specific example of, maybe we put a little bit too much on Toney's shoulders there, which is a really interesting little period to put on that week in an offseason of talking about Chiefs receivers.
Yeah, and setting up plays that he's the primary. Yep. That's a great word to note that Andy Reid used. And I think it also kind of goes back to when Brett Veach talked about Rashee Rice and talked about Justin Ross as being package players that, well, if they're package players and now you're at the end of the game where you just simply need to go out there and run your offense, are you putting in and installing specific packages there, or are you running your offense and Kadarius Toney is playing and he's the primary receiver on this particular route? So that's what we're calling and that's what we're running because this is the personnel we have. And then Andy Reid second-guessing that now and saying, well, probably should have thought better of that looking back and put him in primary positions late in the game.
But if he makes the catches, he looks like a genius. So
he makes the catches. It's, hey, that's why Kadarius Toney is out there. It's because he makes that big of a difference. Sam McDowell asked Andy Reid about how they'll try to work through the wide receiver rotation moving forward.
Yeah, we've got the three guys that have been here, and they end up doing, probably the best in the game. And then we've got three younger guys that we've got to bring along, and then you have James, who's been in a form of this, and then is really tied into the special teams too. So I think the three younger guys, whether it's 4, 8, 19, they're all kind of new in this and learning in games. And as much as we think Kadarius is a seasoned veteran, he hasn't really played a lot. So, but I think you'll see growth from them as we go. We'll just see how that continues to work, But eventually, you'd love them all to be, where we want them. So, and then if they separate, they separate. Well, however that works, it works. But I can't predict that part.
obviously there was so much focus on the drops after the game. How would you just analyze the wide receiver performance outside of the drops part? Obviously there were a couple routes, one early on. Go ahead. Thanks.
Yeah, I think the route part was good. I just think that we've got to, for the most part, there are a couple that we've got to work on. You guys had asked me about the crossing route, and we kind of goofed that up. So I mean that, but we can fix that part. We've all got to do better. That's kind of the thing I took out of this was whether it's coaching, whether it's playing, whether it's the O line, D line. We can all take something out of this game and get better at it. I didn't think all the way around. There were spurts of good, and then there were spurts of not so good, and then we're right in a position to go win the game. And normally we do that. We didn't do that, but normally we take advantage of those situations. And defense had a big play on the batted ball, and then we had a holding penalty, and we had a drop there that down the stretch that would have put us right in position to finish it off. So, I've told you guys this before, and I tell the team this all the time, and tell myself this all the time, that there's a small margin between winning and losing in this thing. And, but you got to take care of business when you put yourself through 4 quarters in a position to go get it. Then you take care of business and finish it.
Some other interesting things coming from that we'll get into and talk a little bit more about. But yeah, that rotation and some other things there. Let's hear from Andy Reid saying that operationally things went well between him and Matt Nagy on Thursday night.
Yeah, we had great communication. I mean, that's how we go about it. I mean, it was just like as if EB were there. I mean, it's the same type of communication that we have during a game. I thought that part was relatively smooth. I didn't have a problem with the way that went.
Let's go next to Vahe. Go ahead, Vahe.
Thanks. Hey, Andy. I'll have a follow-up too, Brad. Andy, with Kadarius, I think you used the term, the only way to get him back. And I do wonder if when somebody has a game like that, how much you feel like you might need to talk to him directly about what happened and either reassure him or just get a better understanding of what went wrong.
Yeah. So normally the player knows probably better than anybody. So, but I have talked to him a couple different times. And so, we just need to keep going through the process here. It's, you got to keep playing, and the more he plays, I mean, that's just not his thing. I mean, he's not a guy that drops balls. He's got great hands. So we just got to keep working through it.
And the other thing, Andy, too, is I don't know if you're aware of this, but he'd had some social media kind of, blasting Giants a little bit. And I wonder if you're aware of that and what you'd say to that, but also in general, how you deal with that kind of thing when it comes up as it does.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't know that. You're saying recently, I presume? Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't know that. But if it is a problem, then I obviously talk to the person about it.
We've talked, and look, he's I've talked to him a couple different times, and he's just not a guy that drops the football. So a social media post by Kadarius, and how do you deal with some things like that? And was that recently? Yeah, wasn't aware of that. On Instagram, Kadarius Toney, fired back at Giants fans who had a lot of fun at his expense on Thursday night. And he fired back at Giants fans after last night's embarrassing defeat at the hands of the Cowboys that he was posting on social media, on Instagram, about the Giants and Giants fans. So,
and it's real quick here. Just everything in this presser so far has been Andy Reid just like laying it out there for Kadarius Toney. Like, it's just, this isn't who he is. We got to keep feeding him. I didn't put him in good positions. I got to be better. Hey, did you see the Kadarius Toney kind of fighting with Giants fans again on social media? No, I didn't see that. Are you serious? Like that?
I'm guessing that's recent.
Yeah, right. He had to clarify because it's not a first-time thing,
not
man.
The one earlier when he was flipping off the Giants wearing the ring on. So that's not the. That's a different one. Okay, that's recent. Yeah.
It's not the worst of Kadarius Toney's social media stuff, to be clear, but it's also not your first time having your head coach get asked about you being silly on social media.
So if you haven't seen it on Instagram, he posted a picture of a couple of Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, and then below that Dallas Cowboys players, and says, "Nah, don't get quiet now." Then the next one was Giants fans last night, and shows the 40-0.
That was probably a video of Stewie Griffin saying something in bed. I can't tell. I'm not.
And then the next one was, and now I'm back off this bleep again. Leave me the F alone, but stay tuned.
And then a little kitty cat emoji, which is probably just because he likes kitty cats.
So if there was a social media post of how do you react to certain things like that, it's not the worst thing. He heard it from Giants fans, and he had fun back at their expense and said, okay, now I'm logging off. So you got yours, I got mine. Now I'm logging off again, and stay tuned.
It's nothing he's not going to get suspended.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a rough look for the third time.
Right. But I would also say with some of the social media stuff that the Chiefs players have gone through, it's also not that big of a deal with the, don't get quiet now. Giants fans that were coming after me, as opposed to Tyrann Mathieu going after fans and then calling the Chiefs fan base toxic, things like that. Much bigger deal than, hey, Giants fans, don't get quiet now.
Yeah. It's just the specific juxtaposition of him having a terrible game and Andy Reid getting asked about that in the midst of a 6-minute legal defense of Kadarius Toney is just brutal.
And then sort of just exasperate. I'm guessing that's recent. You would be punctilious in assuming, Andy?
My client did what now?
I kind of felt like I should have known that Downey was not in the room when the Code Red was ordered. It's not even in the room. That would have been something nice to know before we put him on the stand. Not even in the room. Matt Derrick asking Andy Reid about Jawan Taylor's quick first step.
Yeah, so he works on that hard. He gets it pretty close at times and sometimes too fast. And so we got to make sure it's not too fast, because then that obviously hurts the team. So, but he takes a lot of pride in that and works very hard at that to try to make sure that he gets off well. And you watch the rest of the games this weekend. I mean, that's with these defensive ends and the way they can roll, that helps you get into position, a tick quicker and that. But you don't want to be offsides. That's for sure.
And you mentioned the rest of the weekend. There's a lot of talk now about the tackles and some who do line up, but maybe a little bit more in the backfield than traditional, and the question about how close it gets to the rule. What is your coaching point and Andy Heck's coaching point about how to line up there and what's kind of allowed and not allowed?
Yeah, so normally you're able to split the center's hip there. The guys, you don't want it to be a tell when you're running passing. You also have the officials there. They'll normally help you out with it if you're too deep. They'll give you a warning and you go with it. They do a good job with that, I think. And so, Matt, I mean, the guys are all trying to get every advantage they can. This has been a life since the passing game came into fruition. That's been one of the things that tackles do. I mean, that's been around for a long time, and then you just have to make sure that you don't take advantage of it and get yourself either too deep or leave off the snap too quick.
Interesting. The one, he works hard at that, and obviously he does, because different quarterbacks, he's able to time up that snap count. With Trevor Lawrence, he was doing it a year ago, and now with Patrick Mahomes, he's doing that. And alignment, things like that. You don't want it to be a tell between running and passing, which is something you and I talked about in the break.
Did we really? That's annoying.
Yeah, I know. We didn't talk about it on the air, but talked about it in the break of Juwan Taylor, when he drops that back foot deep like that, the Chiefs were passing. And Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico pointed out, and they kept, well, look at, okay, there he goes. And now now it's a running play. When he's got his feet aligned, it's a running play. When he drops his foot back, it's a passing play. How much does that impact the secondary and the wide receivers if the Detroit Lions are going, okay, it's 2nd and 6, and Juwan Taylor is lined up with his foot behind Patrick Mahomes. So I think they're going to pass the ball here. Yeah, that's something to keep in mind moving forward if he does that. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll finish up hearing from Andy Reid on the other side of the break. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, and Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. Mick Schaefer will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. Some Learn Funniest Best coming with Mick Schaefer later on in that hour. We'll hear the final couple of clips from Andy Reid with Mick Schaefer to start that segment. Jawan Taylor talking about works hard at timing the snap count. Andy Reid said about Jawan Taylor. But you don't want it to be a tell between the running and the passing. That's something to watch for on Sunday to see if that has been fixed. Or if there's more of the, obvious passing situations, okay,
Right.
Sure. 1st and 10, you probably don't want him aligned like that. Okay, well, they're going to pass the ball here.
I guess your options are to either try to get that tell out or mix it in with other and make the defense overread, I guess, and make it meaningless. Yeah. I don't know.
Yep. And a lot of conversation about Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
And the wide receivers overall, but Kadarius Toney's frustrating night. We'll also hear Andy Reid weigh in on the running game or lack thereof and commercials. The Chiefs are all over commercials. Kelsey and Chris Jones in that DirecTV commercial on last Thursday night. That was fun.
Trust is a big deal, especially when it comes to your health. This is Jeff for Heartland Men's Health, and if you're a man suffering with a
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB on this Monday edition. Rainy, overcast, cloudy Monday, and Mick Schaefer joins us too. So we got that going for us for the last hour. You know, he's KSHB 41 sports director. Did you know that, Josh?
I sure did. You know, you can see NBC on your TV dial pretty much everywhere. Good work, Mick.
For mine, it's 41.
Well, that's what I mean. You can see for it's, you know, we've had lots of conversations about cord cutting and cable management and all that. Yeah. You know what I can do whenever I want?
see what you're saying.
I can see Mick Schaefer's bright and smiling face.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Some I can't, unfortunately.
I sure can.
NBC's still available everywhere, all the streaming services, right? They're not in a beef or anything with anybody, so that's good. Beef. And so,
and we got to watch Sunday Night Football last night. I bet that was
Sunday Night Football is back. The later nights are back for the Sound Off crew.
That's right, late night.
And that was a blowout, but it was still like went to like 10:30, so it's not. There's no running clock in the NFL.
Should be, man.
This night should have had
There's
one.
no running quarterbacks, but no running clock. 40-0 lead in for Sunday Sound Off. So that's good. You know,
it was nice.
It's all good. It's, we really got that holdover from.
Field Yates said earlier that he fell asleep during the game, but then woke up and watched the DVR recording he had set for Sunday Sound Off.
That was
That's
nice
what he
of
said.
him.
That's nice of him.
He didn't say that. But
He doesn't even live here.
That's what I heard.
Amazing.
That's what I heard.
I told Dia Wall, who is infamously, if you ask me, a Dallas Cowboys fan, right? She used to work for the organization. It was 19-0, and she was going nuts.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, get ready for a field goal game, Dia, okay? Because this is going down to the wire because it's the NFL and all the coaches are brothers-in-law, okay? And you're not going to be cheered for too long. And I was wrong, of course, because it got doubly worse than that, 40-0.
Or fathers-in-law with Oklahoma and Art Briles.
Yes.
So,
yes.
That. Mick Schaefer is with us.
At least Kevin seemed like he was having a good day at the office.
Listen, he's Bears fan. That's he was apparently he's never been like that. Apparently, he's put a lot of stock into that team this year. He was really had some high hopes.
Oh dear,
he was down.
Well, they were like
down.
He was bared down.
Rodgers is gone. Favre is gone. Decades of losing to the Packers. Oh no, wait, this guy Jordan Love is amazing. Apparently,
Vikings lose at home to the Bucks.
Yeah,
I mean it's all right there, and you lose by 4 touchdowns.
I'm just glad some teams have pulled into a tie for last place with the Chiefs.
That's right. Yeah, about time. And I'm just happy for the Raiders that they are all alone in first place in the West.
Chiefs are only a game back.
Well, you know what? And they play them twice, and they get an opportunity to go. And they didn't lose an AFC game, so there's some takeaways.
It helps.
From this weekend. Andy Reid, though, continued his press conference, and he said the Chiefs, they have plenty to work on with run blocking this week.
Yeah, we can always do better. So, and we need to. We need to do better there. And so we'll get that taken care of. That's a good group up front there. So that, but we've got to clean up some things too.
Go ahead, Seren.
And Brad, I'll have a follow up if I could. Coach, yeah, I know the short yardage has been a bugaboo at times, and you know the play kind of got blown up this last time. Just on that play specifically, it didn't. I mean, there's a breakdown everywhere, right? It wasn't just one guy. Is that a result of not enough reps with it? Is it, what kind of went into that breaking down?
Yeah, we've been practicing it. They got us from inside, and so if you're gonna, normally if there's gonna be a breakdown, you're thinking off the edge or something, but definitely not inside. You want to have the guy to be able to dart inside if he needs to, and, whether it's the B gap or C gap, but we just overset that thing a little too far, so can't do that. I mean that.
And then would you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Coach. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
No, that's a simple part. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you? Is putting Blaine Gabbert in to run short yardage? Is that? I know there've been a couple of quarterbacks and other teams that the backup has kind of been that specialty guy. He's a bigger guy. Would you consider?
I'll tell you what's crazy is when you play these Thursday games, then you get to see all these other games. And QB sneaks didn't look too good yesterday, honestly. We'll go back and we're gonna figure it out here. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, we try to.
try to go back and figure out all the things that we need to do better at, and we'll get it fixed. We'll get that thing figured out. And yeah, I think moving forward, if Patrick Mahomes needs to do a quarterback sneak, I'm not worried about that. So you know what, Seren? I'm actually going to take your advice. I think Blaine Gabbert is now the quarterback sneak. You know what, Seren? You're on payroll right now. All right, there's Andy Reid talking about
clear
the
your throat.
Doggone it, Seren. Doggone it. Andy Reid talking about the short yardage, the running issues and run blocking with the short yardage. And, yeah, they just missed a block. I mean,
which play was he talking about?
The handoff to Rasheed Rice.
The Blake Bell handoff to Rasheed Rice.
Blake Bell handoff to Rasheed Rice on third and 1 yard or a half a yard. And
that was right after the Kadarius Toney jet sweep, right? Wasn't it 2?
It was later
horizontal plays in a row?
No, the Kadarius Toney was 2nd and 1 after Mahomes had scrambled for 9 yards.
What was the third down play after that?
Third down play after that was Mahomes with the guy on his legs who threw to McKinnon, who dropped it. But yeah, that Rasheed Rice one.
Both of those precipitated the field goal tries, right?
The Rasheed Rice one ended in a punt.
Yeah, they punted it.
Okay, that wasn't down by the.
Yeah, the field goal try was that. The Rasheed Rice one was the 5-yard pass to Justin Ross, a 4-yard run by Pacheco, and a -3-yard run by Rasheed Rice, and it just was a missed block. And that's sort of the part of what becomes frustrating is when you run horizontal like that. If one guy doesn't get their block, the whole thing is blown up. And it happened with the Chiefs and Bengals with Carlos Dunlap last year in Cincinnati when the Bengals went all the way down the field before half and they went for it on 4th down, and Dunlap blew that whole thing up because they ran the same thing, and Dunlap was unblocked. You're like, wow, what a great play by Dunlap. And why wouldn't the Bengals just go forward with another quarterback sneak? Because they needed 4 inches. That was it. And the Chiefs needed a yard, and they didn't do that with Blake Bell. But yeah, that's the issue, is that has to be blocked perfectly. And one guy shooting up the middle or not getting the angle on a guy, the whole thing is toast. And in a position like that, when you're in a game like that, you can't have you just got to pick up the first down. Just pick up the first down, keep the chains moving, and hopefully you get a big play. But just get 10 yards.
They had a very spirited debate on I guess it was the Fox pregame show, or which one is Bill Cowher on? CBS. CBS about quarterback sneaking and how he hates how the Eagles do it because he says he thinks it's very dangerous for the quarterback because they'll run a running back right up. Well, you've seen it, right? Mm-hmm. Right up the back of Hurts. And he's like, he's getting hit from all 4 sides on a lot of these plays. I don't like it. And he had kind of the old head approach. And the new heads weren't liking that. Nate Burleson, some of those guys. But I think the rules should be put back in. You can't push guys from behind. That's just. It's
no
almost
push
unstoppable if you have the right guys in there to run a quarterback sneak. When you're running dudes at,
92%.
from 5 yards, 92%. It feels like it's
apparently 92%
more successful than that. But I think that's
see the 8%.
It used to be a rule that they never called, and they took the rule out.
Yeah.
Now it's not a rule, and I don't think that's fair.
They didn't call it against Notre Dame either with USC and the Bush push.
Not. So when it was in the
that was
books.
actually illegal.
Yeah.
Then so.
Actually, yesterday, 8%. If you didn't see the Colts and Shane Steichen try and use it, they actually failed with Anthony Richardson of all.
Oh, my goodness. So they brought in a fullback to play quarterback there. They brought in a middle linebacker to play quarterback to run the quarterback. They brought in their Belldozer, their Blake Bell. Is Anthony Richardson and Blake Bell, are they roughly the same size? Well, they might be.
They should run it with Patrick Mahomes, but I agree with Cowher. I don't want to see even I don't want to see a Clyde Edwards-Helaire slamming into the back of Mahomes.
Well, he wouldn't be fast enough to do it anyway.
Yeah, Pacheco might be a problem.
Okay,
yes, Pacheco, because he would just keep elbowing Mahomes.
That's actually true. Pacheco might run up and just start throwing forearm shippers.
Lead with his helmet into the spine.
Yes. He's spearing
not
him.
Stopping, just pounding right in the back of Mahomes. The whistle's blown. He's still banging his head against Mahomes. We're going to get the first down. I'm 5 yards past. Pacheco, stop.
Mahomes is laying on the ground on his back. Pacheco just grabs his face mask and starts pulling. We're dragging you in.
That actually is against the rules. You cannot pull a runner. You can push.
Can you pull your own runner by the face mask, though?
Well, I don't believe so.
What about after the play, after the whistle? Can you do that?
Do whatever you want.
Could Mahomes sit on Pacheco's shoulders? Is that legal? Is that leverage?
That's just like rugby when they're throwing the ball in.
Yes.
You just hold the guy up, goes and gets it. That would be great.
The Chiefs would be great at that. We all know this.
That would be perfectly fine. Andy was asked about his new commercial with Patrick Mahomes that debuted this week.
Yeah, they did. Listen, I'm sticking to my day job. I'm not an actor for sure, but it's something in the off season, that I did, and I originally kind of did it for Pat, and they asked us to do another one, so I did it, but I know I'm not very good at it, and so I'm gonna keep my day job here.
Hey, Coach. It seemed like Rasheed had a really good feel for space on his touchdown catch. I'm just curious, when you look at the tape, what you saw from that play.
Yeah, no, he did a nice job. Both he and Blake did nice jobs on theirs, of kind of feeling the area. And that's one of Rasheed's strengths. And we probably could use him a little bit more in those type of, in different situations where space is important. We're trying to bring these guys along as we go, and that's. But I thought he did. I thought he sure did a nice job right there.
He did. We talked about that in the first hour, that it felt like Rashee Rice was running a different route and saw the open space, stopped, and then made himself available to Patrick Mahomes. Did the jumping jacks. Mahomes found him, and a touchdown for Rashee Rice. So that was good. But a lot of the conversation with Andy Reid today, not surprisingly, about the wide receiver group.
Yeah, I would like to respectfully disagree with Andy Reid. I thought he was, when the three of them are sitting in that booth in that commercial, he was the best of the three.
I haven't seen it yet.
You didn't see it?
Oh, you haven't? Oh, it's pretty good because there's cheeseburgers involved, some nuggets at the end.
They got Andy Reid to say the word nuggies.
Yeah, he said nuggies.
It's really good. I don't
Patrick
know what to tell
Mahomes is the second best. He's getting better in these commercials.
Getting better.
The guy who plays Jake from State Farm is the worst commercial actor I have ever seen.
Wow.
He is not good.
Did not like that guy.
No, he's not good.
You've hated him since elementary school.
Every
What did he
commercial
do?
is like, oh, this is a brand new actor. He's never acted in something. He's just saying his lines.
You know the messed
I
up
don't
thing?
believe. I don't believe him. I don't believe
You know
him.
what's the worst? His name's not even Jake.
No.
His name's not even Jake.
What
What's
is his
the
name?
point? I don't know. I'll find out. It's not Jake, though.
It's not Jake from State Farm?
He's not the
Middle
original
name?
Jake from State
No,
Farm.
he is not. Nope.
No, he was
That's
the
an all-time
recasted
classic commercial.
Jake
Yeah.
from State Farm.
What are you wearing? Khakis.
She sounds hideous. Well, she's a guy, so.
Oh man, his Jake from State Farm has an Instagram account that is just at Jake from State Farm, and it's all so branded that I can't even look directly
You're
at it.
bundling right now, aren't you?
It's really hideous. Here's an interesting headline. Well, no, this is the original Jake from State Farm guy. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this.
You get to the bottom of it.
I think his name is Kevin.
The original Jake from State Farm, does he do anything else, or has he already been branded as State Farm guy? Just like, dude, you're getting a Dell. Could never get another job anywhere because he was the Dell guy.
Well,
I'm sorry, we can't really cast you as this because nobody's getting a Dell. Yeah, that was a commercial. I did it. It was not. No, that's all you're known for. Sorry, we're gonna go.
You mean the Mac and PC, the PC guy?
The whatever, dude, you're getting a Dell.
Oh, I don't know about the Dell guy.
What about the Can You
PC
Hear Me
guy
Now
was there.
guy?
What's up?
Can you hear me now guy?
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah,
He went to Sprint eventually.
He's a turncoat,
He
actually.
is.
He's a traitor.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he's a traitor.
Flo's never going to get another job outside of being Flo.
It's funny. She was in a movie with John Cena a long time ago. She played his wife. Yep.
What?
With John Cena. The story, the main character was like the kid. I can't remember what the movie was called, but yeah, she's been in some other stuff.
She worked for an insurance company in the movie.
She did not. Jamie, I've seen. He's been in some other stuff from Progressive.
Yeah.
This is according to GetJerry.com. The original Jake from State Farm character wasn't an actor. He was an actual State Farm employee.
No
After
way.
the commercial became a hit, actor Kevin Miles took over the role as Jake from State Farm.
So they kicked off the actual.
He was way
They
more convincing.
killed Jake. From the TV campaign.
Oh. Or the Instagram of Jake Fromm, which was Jake from State Farm.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a great, Twitter and Instagram.
Mick thinks he ought to be the new Jake from State Farm. Man, if he would have been any better, he had a great endorsement deal just sitting there for me. He could not pick it up.
Is he done?
I don't know, but I haven't seen him in a State Farm commercial yet. So,
Yeah.
Where's Jake from right now?
Not running quarterback sneaks anywhere. Would it be smart to bring in Blaine Gabbert?
He's a commander.
No. I mean, it's going to be obvious what you're doing.
Well, the thing is, though, with when I think the stat that Sam McDowell had, when Blake Bell and Noah Gray actually snapped the ball and ran a quarterback sneak, they were 5 for 5. When they
not counting the preseason.
That was after the preseason game because of a lot of talk about why don't you just do this or do that. And he's like, well, they've never been stopped on that. They've actually converted on those things. Now, when they've gotten cute, they have not. Like when Blake Bell tried to run the option and different variances of those things. The variant that I wanted for that was to have a hard count and get a free 5 yards, which they did.
They did, and they didn't.
And they didn't
take
like
advantage
touch
of it
or jump or do anything there or snap the ball, anything.
I agree. Just get the gigantic, very athletic dude behind center, fall forward. Behind maybe the best center in the game, fall forward with him.
And then
take your chances.
And then have Pacheco pounding that guy in the back.
You go.
That's fine. Sorry, Blake Bell, but
he's your third tight end.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. You'll be able to Matt Bushman, bring him in and do that. That's fine. I mean, Pacheco. Sorry, Matt. I mean,
and then once after you do that 4 times in a row, have him maybe do this on like a second one. Have him pop up and throw a pass because he can.
That's the
former quarterback. Make him honor that.
That's the thing I've thought about with the Gabbert conversation is, hey, Blake Bell can throw a 1-yard pass of some sort, right? Like if you just want to make them think about it, if you think Blake Bell's a better sneaker than Gabbert, then just give Blake Bell a little more of the playbook if you want.
You know what you do?
Get wacky.
Is you run Blake Bell in motion, right? And you try to do the whole surprise him. So
that sounds really cute.
Right, no, but you immediately get under center, and then they think you're going to go, and you hike it, and everybody falls forward, but the hike goes through his legs to Patrick Mahomes, who's standing back there. And then you got a guy. You got a tight end, not Blake Bell, like a Noah Gray or somebody like that that's blocking on the end of the line, and then he just runs straight forward, and then Mahomes just lofts it, or he hands it off to somebody. I don't know, something like that. That would be crazy. They should try like little trick plays when they need short yardage situations.
This is
I'm sick and tired of them.
You're
just
like
saying,
the new janitor for Andy Reid.
Yes,
coming up with plays.
Just so tired of like they need 1 or 2 yards and they just line up and pound it down somebody's throat. I am tired of that. Get creative, damn it. Have a little flair with these short yardage situations, huh? Maybe go vertical, side to side. Maybe do a do-si-do. Can we do 2 handoffs in one before we actually try to turn a corner when we need 1 or 2 yards? Let's have some fun. 13 pieces of flair. Well, if you just want to do the bare minimum, then go somewhere else. But look at Mike McDaniels over there. He's got 35 pieces of flair and 34 points.
Or they could just snap it to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, but everybody would expect that.
Think about it. Just think about it, Andy. Just think about it.
Nobody was expecting Blake Bell to hand it off to Rashee Rice, except for the guy who blew up right upfield and went after Rashee Rice. Except for him.
Other than him.
He probably knew that because he didn't crash down on Blake Bell. He just went straight up the field. Yeah. So 10 of the 11 guys on defense did not know they were going to hand that to Rashee Rice. So
I can promise you confidently that the most shocking thing the Chiefs could do would be let Patrick Mahomes sneak it. I mean, there would be defensive linemen would fall over onto their own rear ends just out of shock. They wouldn't even have to get blocked. Creed Humphrey could go and blow a nose tackle over if Patrick Mahomes sneaks it.
I am waiting for, just like in Rudy, when it's the Super Bowl and they need a half yard on 4th down.
Is there a Super Bowl in Rudy? I haven't seen it.
I'm going to make the comparison here. They need a half yard, and Andy Reid calls the play, and Patrick Mahomes goes in there and says, quarterback sneak. We're just quarterback sneaking this. No. We got to run the play. To hell with Divine. If we don't pick up a first down, we don't win this game. Was it Jamie O'Leary? Who was it that Vince Vaughn played? Whatever the player that hated Rudy, and then he's the one that called the halfback pass. That's going to happen. In the Super Bowl, it's going to be like some crazy fun play, and Mahomes just going to quarterback sneak. We're sneaking it. Creed, we're sneaking it. Let's go. That's all we're doing. They're not going to expect it. You guys can do all the funny stuff in the backfield all you want and try to, trick them, but I'm just going to run this play.
An indictment on Notre Dame. How every week they blew teams out back then. He gets in for one play, barely.
Yep, and they weren't even going to let him in.
Poor clock management.
Yeah, Dan Devine wasn't going to let him in if they didn't throw the halfback pass.
Hashtag Mizzou.
I don't even know what that's from.
He played at Mizzou, or he coached at Mizzou.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were I was thinking Rudy the dude that threw the pass. That was.
You want him back? You want Dan Devine back?
Went from third team to prep team. I don't know. I mean, They've got a Rudy. She's playing quarterback. That's the problem. They've got their Rudy.
He's out there every play.
I want Brady Cook to dress for me, Coach. I want Brady Cook to dress for me, Coach. Brady Cook, he can dress for me, Coach. Brady Cook can dress. Okay, Sam, he'll dress for you. Why'd you pick me? There's
Yes.
50 other dudes that laid their. Who was the guy that got chosen, by the way, to actually sit for Rudy? I was just joking. I thought everybody.
Who else was doing it? My parents are coming to the game. Can I
My
take it
parents,
back?
my parents are here too. My John Favreau's in the audience too. He's here to watch me. I wanted to be the wild man.
My
to him
family
too.
actually believes that I'm on the team.
Yes. Who's the wild man now? So, did you enjoy week 1 of the football season there, Mick? Huh? Did you enjoy
I did.
it?
Well,
Of
I
the,
mean,
of the NFL season?
yes. It's been every other level's been going for a while now, so
Yeah,
it's
there's,
good we get the NFL to catch back up with college and high school, and we finally can get into a routine.
Yeah, that's right.
And the routine was me losing money yesterday, so feels like everything's back.
Little Friday, Saturday, Sunday action.
What was I missing that like? I saw the line of Bengals by 1. I'm like, wait, what am I? Well, these idiots in Vegas. So I put money on that, and that wasn't even close. So I know. I guess the Browns own them, and they still own them.
They do.
And so there was that.
There's still ownage going on.
There's still ownage going on. What else did I miss on?
A lot of them, probably.
A lot of them. I did get some sort of money line if they get up 10. Bet on the Texans game against the Ravens, so that helps stave it off. But back to losing money.
The week 1 road favorites in division.
Yeah.
Since 2009, we're 9-16 straight up. They are 9-17 after the Cincinnati and Cleveland game, but Jacksonville and Indianapolis, Jacksonville won, and Dallas won last night. So now 11-17 with Buffalo and New York tonight. Buffalo's a road favorite against New York Monday night in division. Again, that's 11-17 going back to 2009 that the underdogs have won 11 or 17-9 in winning straight up. So we'll see if the Jets can cap that off tonight. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Learn funniest bests coming up on the other side of the break. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Brisco, Dylan Michaels, Mick Schaefer hanging out with us until 2 o'clock. We got some Learn Funniest Best coming your way. It is presented by Pyramid Roofing. For a free estimate, give them a call, 816-966-1101. Or check them out, pyramidroofingkc.com. Learn Funniest Best. We go around the room. What we learned, the funniest from the weekend, and the best from the weekend. What I learned this weekend is that people weren't telling as many jokes on Sunday about the Chiefs as they were on Thursday and Friday. And they had some tweets that were old takes exposed, some of those. But I learned a couple of things with Kadarius Toney as well. One, Kadarius Toney outscored T. Higgins in fantasy football. And it took the entire Giants receiving corps 38 minutes of football to pass Kadarius Toney's 1 yard receiving.
Wow. Unreal. Stupendous
The
stat.
entire wide receiving core, 38 minutes to pass Kadarius Toney's 1-yard receiving. That's what I learned. A lot of old takes exposed. A lot of people having some fun that came back to bite them over the weekend. That was a fun learn. What was your learn there, Josh?
I learned something that genuinely shocked me yesterday.
Okay.
When T.J. Watt tied James Harrison for the most sacks in Steelers history. 80.5, both leads the Pittsburgh Steelers in history, which I was surprised by. Even going back to some of the older guys before sacks were an official stat, they still don't quite hit that 80 cutoff. A couple of them get close. But T.J. Watt has as many sacks as James Harrison in 90 fewer games. 90 fewer games to get to 80.5. That just scorched my eyebrows off when he had his third sack yesterday, which is when he tied that record.
That's legitimately shocking.
I was shocked. It seemed impossible.
Was Harrison more of an edge guy or more of a linebacker?
No, he was an
type?
edge guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't play as, but
You got some 2-point stance work from him, I think, but he was a menace.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I was on, and also, I was kind of surprised that he was the Steelers' all-time sack leader. But
yeah,
80.5, and T.J. Watt will get there as soon as he gets half another one.
It's a good ball club to be the all-time sack leader.
It really
no
is.
To say.
No
It's
kidding.
incredibly impressive.
I wonder if Eric Fisher would be able to block him on a 2-point conversion.
Too soon.
I mean, it's not like Rodney Harrison was 58 years old. Or not James Harrison. I actually think he might have been dead at that time.
It's 2 Super Bowls and however many years ago, and it's still too soon.
They actually just rolled an urn around Eric Fisher, who held him and got called for the penalty. They rolled his hospital bed around Eric Fisher, who held him.
In fairness, James Harrison in a hospital bed is still pulling like 500 pounds of plates. He is hip flexing from his hospital bed.
That's probably right.
600 pounds.
Mick, what did you learn this weekend?
I learned that Illinois is one of a handful of teams that Kansas has beaten in 3 separate centuries.
Wow. That's amazing.
3 separate centuries. They started playing football in 1890. Now there was like one season there. They played 3 games. 2 were against Baker.
Oh, yeah.
But they beat Illinois in 1892.
That was a good one.
Guess how many wins total KU has over Illinois in football?
3.
I'm going to guess 3.
1 in each century.
That's all you need.
They beat him in 1968.
Well, let's
and they beat him in 2023. And like I said, 1892.
Well, let's hope they don't do another deal with Illinois after this one's up until at least 2100.
It was 76 years separating the first 2 wins. 55.
Yeah, I'll let you do that.
55 wins between years between wins 2 and 3.
Well, these college football games are scheduled so far
They
out.
are. I mean, they scheduled this matchup in 1940.
Yeah, they might as well schedule Kansas, Illinois, home and home for 2106 and 2107.
What did somebody say on one of the Reddit pages? Is like, can't wait for the big game come up in 2100.
Just
like,
next
can't
one.
wait to see how we do in 2100.
The next one. Dylan, what did you learn?
So I actually learned that the Chargers will go to any lengths to get more fans in the stands at their home games.
I hate this.
They were promoting the new film, The Creator, which is about AI robots and humans interacting. So there were 4, well, actually it looks like 2 separate AI couples in the stands as robots. If you look on frontofficesports.com,
what?
They had robots playing
scares me.
Chargers fans because
Wait, you just saw them on camera, or there were actual robots there?
No, they were there.
person?
they are
in the seats. Like
yes,
They were there in
real-
person and in robot?
Yes,
that's right.
In person.
That's right. And again,
Did,
as Dylan alluded to, it was weird that they were still cheering for the Dolphins, but the programming took over. They realized I'm not supposed to be rooting for the Chargers.
It's
here.
self-learning.
Yes,
No, it's adapting.
It's adapting.
Oh my gosh.
It's eerie. I would not have wanted to sit
What
there.
in
I saw
the
those pictures and
heck?
made me uncomfortable. Yeah, there's a movie that looks horrifying.
Yeah.
Coming soon.
Right. Cool. So they can't get anybody in the Dolphins fans and AI generated.
It's going to be
Chargers
crazy
fans.
in a couple of weeks when it's just AI fan, Cat's brother, Chris Jones, Cat's brother, AI fan, just going 5 wide. Going to be a crowded booth.
What was the funniest for you, Josh?
Well, it could have been that it took the entire Giants wide receiving corps 38 minutes to game time to surpass Kadarius Toney's 1 yard. But instead, it's this beautiful clip of audio that we alluded to earlier that just makes me so happy. Jamar Chase, take it away.
It's frustrating because I called their ass elves, and we just lost to some elves, so I'm pissed on my part. I'm pissed on that end.
That's so good.
I know Chiefs fans are still a little salty about the whole Pat Who thing, but listen, you're watching a generational talent in Jamar Chase, not just as a receiver, but as a creator of those quote graphics that get passed around as memes for the next 5 years.
That's right.
The number of Lord of the Rings based jokes that were coming out of football Twitter last night after that graphic went out, just stupendous. So the funniest thing for me is Jamar Chase saying, I called the ass elves, and we just lost to some elves.
I just like that back-to-back games, the Bengals spent the week talking and lost both games.
Got some loose lips over there in Cincy.
Ended their season and started their season talking leading into a game, and those talking had rough games. Mick, what was the funniest for you?
So we get comments emailed to us or tweeted at us or whatever form of communication. People are going to comment at us. So last night on Sunday Night Football, I got an email. I won't say who it's from, but the comment was, "Your closed captions are blocking the screen on Sunday Night Football."
As opposed to a thought bubble above the screen.
Well, we're not in
You're
charge
not in control of that.
his closed captions.
I know, but also
it's on his TV.
Yeah.
You turn them on, turn them off. we're not injecting them into every program. That's all on you.
Why are you?
It's all on you, man.
I'm tired of big closed caption always lobbying and spending money for political influence in this world. Big closed caption.
They were technologically able to email you that, right?
Yeah.
But not technologically aware of how their TVs.
That's almost the equivalent of, hey, the screen's black. Screen's there's no TV. It's not on.
My TV's not getting any power.
Yeah,
Nick. Can you please tell your bosses?
So yeah, that was
so funny.
That was great. It was the funniest of the week.
Captioning is blocking the game.
So good.
Dylan, what was the funniest for you?
So the funniest is that Matt Ryan, no matter what profession he is in or what television he is on, just seemed to can't escape this score.
We were just chopping some burgers at halftime saying this game feels like it should be 28-3 in favor of Minnesota. Why is it still 10-10?
Turnovers.
He couldn't get to his answer quick enough. He watched the video.
Has that guy responded? Did he say he did it on purpose, or he somehow threw out just that score randomly?
But he said they were chopping burgers.
Chopping
Who
some
talks
burgers.
like that, first
They
of
were
all?
chomping burgers at half, saying this feels like more of a 28-3 score.
You can say any other score.
Any other score.
38-10. I was going through it in my head like.
Well, I could see maybe, okay, they're like, oh, there should have been 4 touchdowns here. They should take away the touchdown there. Maybe that's a common football score. But I want to know, did he really mean to say that?
But are you sitting around at a table at halftime saying this score feels like 28-3, right, Matt? Because he said this score feels more like 28-3.
It smacks of this guy's buddies are like, oh man, you're doing a game with Matt Ryan, his debut.
Please.
Oh, you got to sneak this in. Come on.
28-3, man. Come on, man. You'd be the coolest guy ever.
I love the idea that he was just trying to needle him during the break, and Matt Ryan had no response. It was like, all right, fine, I'll say it on TV too. We'll see.
You would just be so boss if you said 28-3 to Matt Ryan. Oh, that'd be amazing. My funniest from the weekend is after Colorado won. Did you see the bodyguard for Deion Sanders, one of the bodyguards for Coach Prime?
I don't think so.
Nope.
He's wearing just a long-sleeve T-shirt. Now, the T-shirt says, around and find out.
Uh-huh.
But if you look closer, there's a stick figure humping the A.
Come on. Is
Wait,
this
the
like
bodyguard
Colorado
said
gear?
that?
Or?
It's Deion's bodyguard walking behind him with a stick figure humping the word around.
I wonder if there's a Colorado logo on the front there.
That's the bodyguard.
Definitely the 21 Prime logo out front for sure. For sure.
Put that one together yourself, kids. Mick, what was the best of the weekend for you?
Dance along and find out.
We got to go. It was a parents' weekend, family weekend at Kansas State, so we got to go and tailgate and see my son there. And it's not a funny thing and whatever. It was good. I know, right?
You saw your son?
Yeah,
that sucked.
Mick is so ashamed to ever be earnest at all. He's like, "Oh, sorry,
you had to see your son.
Sorry about that. I couldn't find anything better to say."
My funniest from the weekend was Mick having to see his son.
Yeah, but it was good. Good little frat party tailgate. I'll tell you that much right now over there in Manhattan. Let's see.
Was it a nice?
It was a nice little time.
Okay,
It was a nice little time.
There you go. That's good. You do any shotgunning? Huh?
I did not.
Okay.
We saw some amateurs doing some shotgunning. Like the one guy opens it up
amateurs.
and like a third of the beer spills out before he gets it to his mouth. Then another third leaves it whenever he's trying to shotgun. I'm like, okay. You got a long way to go, buddy.
You didn't just walk over and say, "All right, son, let me show you how it's done."
I punched him in the face.
Good
for you.
Deservedly so.
Good for you. That's fine. It's appropriate. It's as one should do.
There.
Dylan, what was the best from the weekend for you?
So the best is me. I'm still being petty over Bengals fans taking their shots Thursday night. So the best thing for me was the article that came out right before the Bengals-Browns game from Diana Rossini of The Athletic, talking about Jimmy and Robin Burrow haven't been able to see their son since he became the NFL's highest-paid player. That's just how he is. Even this past week, we were in Cincinnati, and we wanted to stop by his house to see him for a few minutes. He told us no because he was preparing for the Cleveland Browns in a game in which he went out and threw for 82 yards on 14 completions and 45% completion percentage with a quarterback rating of 52, showing that Joe Burrow just really doesn't like his parents.
He wasn't really preparing. He was Jamarcus Russell preparing right there.
I quote tweeted that with a picture of Paul Pierce a couple years ago when he was having a very fun house party, and I said, "This is what Joe Burrow was actually doing with his contract extension."
Exactly right. Johnny Football. He was in Vegas. Sorry, Mom, Dad, you can't come over. I'm preparing. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm preparing. That's what I'm doing. My best was from College Game Day on Saturday. This could have been my funniest too, but I put this one as my best. Desmond Howard, when they were going through and they were picking the games. So earlier in the picks, he had picked Colorado over Nebraska. And so to do that, he put a Colorado hat on. So black hat, CU. So he's wearing that. And then they get to the Texas and Alabama picks. And Desmond Howard goes for another prop. And he picks Texas. And so if you've seen the Montgomery, Alabama fight, if you're watching on TV, Desmond Howard goes, "I'm going to pick," and then pulls up a folding chair with Texas on it. Just like the fight in Montgomery, Alabama on the dock.
I completely missed the hat part of the
Oh, he
prop.
tossed the hat just like the dock worker did.
Completely missed that was part of it until just now.
Yes, he had to put the hat on at some point.
So good.
To be able to toss the hat like the guy in the dock worker so that he can have the chair that would make sense as to why he's using the folding
Haven't
chair.
seen either one, the fight nor the game.
You haven't seen
missed
the
that
Montgomery,
fight?
Alabama fight?
When was this?
A month ago, maybe.
Wait,
For the last 2 months?
Was that at a football game or at just
At a dock.
No,
A dock.
it was an F around and find out is what it was.
There was so many cultural touchdown moments out of that fight, Mick. I can't believe
so
you
many
missed it.
things.
I'll catch you up later.
I can't wait to go to break.
Yeah, seriously.
So can everybody else. That was my best, was seeing Desmond Howard do that. What was the best for you, Josh?
So yesterday was Renee's birthday, and it was just great to get to spend an entire day, kind of celebrating the thing in this world that I think brings me more joy than anything else. Something I talk about all the time, that I love daily, that I think about every waking moment. The Red Zone Channel's back, baby! The Red Zone Channel is back! It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Back again yesterday. Man, that was sweet.
Happy for you guys.
My phone's ringing.
One of the things that I really thought was it was trying to make the best out of a bad situation is how often Red Zone called me with updates when he was in the hospital. Just to let everybody know what's going on and keeping emailing everybody to what's going on.
Yeah. Scott Hansen can do it all, man.
Yeah, it was very nice of Red Zone to do that. So
I loved it at your wedding when your mom got up and talked to you in Red Zone. and was just so loving and appreciative of how Red Zone's joining your family.
Yeah, it was so easy for me to confess in front of so many friends and family how much I love Red Zone.
I
And
thought
how
it was
wonderful Red Zone
a
channel is.
really fun exchanging of vows that you just had them talking on Red Zone. It was a Red Zone talking and jumping from game to game, really showing you why the relationship is working.
Yeah, it was important to be able to celebrate 8 hours of commercial-free football with my loved ones.
Well, I mean, technically, that's also the. Ooh, I gotta get the date right. Not for you anymore.
That's fine.
Hey, is now the best time to tell you that I've spent a lot of time with Red Zone as well?
Listen, Red Zone and I think, have maybe the healthiest relationship of my entire life.
This
it's
was,
just, we.
So here's the thing.
I watch other channels too. I mean,
yeah, but here's the thing. That was
open.
You did
relationship.
spend time on its birthday. It was the 14th birthday for Red Zone Channel.
Wow,
So
beautiful.
They have the same birthday?
Yeah. What are the odds?
That is really incredible. I had Renee
1 in
Renee will be on.
365. Probably.
Yeah.
Well,
actually, it's probably more than that. I mean, I don't think it's 1 in 365. It's like you take that and then most likely.
It's also Sky Moore.
5 days.
Sky Moore's birthday yesterday. Also,
What about
by the way.
leap year?
And hopefully it's not the exact birthday, right? You said Red Zone's only 14 years old?
Yeah, it's
okay.
yeah,
Not
it's
the exact year.
No,
Okay, good.
No, but the same day and month.
Good.
Also, did we just find out that Josh is married to a 14-year-old?
No. This is I'm not Brady Cook.
No, that's we're not going to break on that.
No,
That was-
sorry.
That was a reference to
That's-
last
I'm
week
not-
and
see,
talking about Eli Drink.
Now
That is
Jason
not a Brady.
set that up for me and was like, "Hold on, now Josh,
Well,
your
none
joke
of us
about
were
Brady
thinking
Cook,
you
you
were
can't
anyone
break."
That was
go there.
no
Yeah.
setup for that. That was not a setup.
I'm not Eli Drink. What's the?
That had nothing to do with Brady Cook. That
Nothing
was
to do with Brady
Eli.
Brady Cook. Eli put him in
It
a
was
bad spot.
Eli that put him in a bad spot, and then in the game did the same thing.
Absolutely. No, look, Brady Cook seems like a great dude. In fact, such a great dude.
Mr. Mizzou.
Happy birthday, Renee. Probably should have said that yesterday.
Happy birthday, Red Zone.
Yep.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Tim Grunhard coming up at 6 o'clock tonight, and then Bills and Jets 7 o'clock with Westwood One. We got a ring to give out, right?
We sure do, and really
Red Zone
appropriate
channel?
at this point. No, to my beautiful, loving, wonderful wife, Renee, and also my favorite TV channel. Ruback Fine Jewelry handles all of those important decisions for me. Did my ring, did Renee's ring. Thrilled with that, and thrilled to give out a metaphorical ring to both the Chargers and the Dolphins. They gave us what we needed yesterday. We needed a high-octane, wild card round sort of feeling to kick this season off, and the Chargers and Dolphins absolutely delivered. Much like Ruback Fine Jewelry will deliver. They'll do a better job getting you a ring than the Dolphins or Chargers will, though, I promise you that. You can schedule your appointment on their Everything Must Go sale before it's too late. Amazing deals that started on August 21st and only run through September 16th. So you run out of time. That's through this week. Call 913-649-8811 or visit their website at ruback.co. That's ruback.co. And then maybe you'll see me there as I'm looking for a Sorry About That segment present that I can get for Renee.
I thought maybe the Bengals offensive line would get the ring because the Browns were running circles around them.
They deserve it. Miles
Doing
Garrett
that?
almost got it from me there, but I thought I'd give it to offense.
If you have not seen the video of Miles Garrett
Killer crossover.
Killer.
acting like he's crossing over with a basketball,
Like he's
through his
crossing
legs.
half court. Like, okay, here we
Yeah.
go. I'm dribbling up.
Getting ready to
I'm
go
into the offense
He's
here.
getting ready to go one-on-one with the center.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
he's crossing over in between his legs,
Two-point stance. Standing up, obviously.
2-point stance, and when the snap comes, he jukes left and then goes right around the center as if like I just crossed you up, and now I'm going for a right-handed layup.
Kind of dunked on.
He was going to dunk on
there,
Burrow.
yeah.
Really did.
Burrow did sneak up the middle though, and
He
then
didn't make the tackle, but
the rest
he
of the
created
Browns
for
players
everybody else.
crushed Joe. He got there and then dished off the rock.
That's how it
to
usually
somebody
works.
else.
Like the first guy there doesn't make the tackle, but he makes the play.
So perfect point guard. He got there and then dropped it off to somebody who had an easier
dime.
play, but just walked up acting like he was just crossing dudes up between his legs. It was amazing. Hey, Johnny's Tavern on Mondays. They've got the KC discount with 18-inch New York-style specialty pizzas at the Johnny's Tavern. Metro's premier sports bar is Johnny's Tavern. So 18-inch New York-style specialty pizzas. It is dine-in only, and the percentage off on Mondays after every Chiefs game is the number of points they scored. So 20% off for Johnny's 18-inch New York-style specialty pizza, dine-in only. Go to johnnystavern.com for all of the daily specials. But Mondays after a Chiefs game, so whether they play Thursday or Saturday or Sunday, whatever, Mondays after a Chiefs game, whatever they score, that's percentage off on the New York-style specialty pizza dine-in. Thank you, Mick.
Bye.
Are you looking for the ultimate cannabis experience? Well, look no further than From the Earth, your premier destination for all things cannabis. Come visit From the Earth today